Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is 6:01, and we are beginning our work session, briefing session. Okay, so first thing that we have is city manager. If you want to read the consent items for us, please.
Mayor and council, tonight on the consent agenda are the minutes for the November 5th regular city council meeting. And item 4B is a resolution approving submittal for Texas Parks and Wildlife grant application for Armstrong Park. As we had said before, we have the opportunity for grant applications. Wherever we have the opportunity for grants, we will apply for those. With the Kidsville Splash Pad project being designed, we want to submit that for a grant application with Parks and Wildlife. The application deadline is in December, so we need council resolution authorization to apply for that grant. The grant request is scored on a subjective scoring basis. We've used a consultant, Blaze and Associates, to help us with the grant application. And we have a possibility of being awarded up to $750,000 from Parks and Wildlife. It's a 50% reimbursement grant. If we get that grant, then of course that will help us leverage our bond money that was allocated for that project to other park-related projects.
I don't know that personally.
We should find out in the spring then if we are awarded that grant.
So we can get up to $750,000. How much would you
Right there.
Well, we'll apply for the full amount.
And so, if successful, when we get the money, do we have a specific set of things that we're going to allocate it for, or will it just become?
No, it'll be for the Kidsville and Splash Pad project,
Okay.
for that specific project. So what, in other words, the $1.5 million that we have allocated for that project, if we get a grant funding, then we won't have to spend all of our money on it. We'll spend ours and the Parks and Wildlife grant, and then the money we get from the grant, or what we have left, can be used for other park-related projects, that bond money.
And so if we're successful to get this $750,000, would that put us over the threshold for a single audit?
Yes, sir, I think it will.
Richard, when's the last time we had a single audit?
It's been a couple of years since we had one.
Oh, okay, so we need to maybe get up to speed a little bit?
Well, we just need to be prepared for it.
Okay, no doubt we are. Thank you.
And we're competing against other cities, I suppose.
Yes, it's a very competitive process throughout the state.
Other states.
Those are all of the items on the consent agenda.
Sorry, can I ask you something about that grant process? I mean, do you, when you're writing that grant, do you also put in what it's doing to our Main Street, what it's doing to our economic development? I mean, how it is a holistic, when you're looking at it, you look at it holistically?
I honestly can't answer that question specifically. I can, is Bart here? Oh, there you are. I wondered if you were still here.
Yeah, we did receive the 8% proofread this week, so it does include information and language about the Main Street and how that improves our Main Street area.
Holistic?
Yes, it talks about all the things you talked about.
I figured you
Absolutely
had
does.
it. You had it, okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Just a bit of housekeeping. Ladies and gentlemen, our citizens that have come into our briefing room for the briefing session, we have some technological issues going on. That's why we've invited you here rather than being able to broadcast it out there. But nothing is going to change in terms of how we operate in our briefing session, in terms of citizen input and citizen comments. During our briefing sessions in here, during the working sessions, we do not entertain citizen input. All of your input, and I'm sure what you're here for, is to talk about the public contract. So all of that input we will take out in city council chambers after city council actually comes to order. So if you wish to speak on that, the best thing to do is to fill out the card as we've done in the past, have that card prepared and give it to the city secretary, and then I will call on you when we get to that, and that's when your opportunity to speak will be addressed. Okay?
I don't think that's
Okay.
what the House
So we
bill
got-
says.
So we got cards.
I don't think it's what it says.
During briefing session, are permitted to go exactly as I have said.
I know what you said, but I know the state law changed as of September 1st, and I don't think that follows anymore.
It also allows us as a council to put in individual rules of order as we see fit, and that's what we have done
Well,
tonight.
it says as far as like time limits.
I have imposed no, time limits may still be imposed on citizen inputs, which we have not changed. We're still at 2 minutes.
But it says a board must allow each member of the public to comment on agenda items at all open meetings. This means every open meeting, not just regular meetings. Therefore, this would include special call meetings, workshops, work sessions, or any other board gatherings or deliberations that are open to the public.
Keep reading.
A board must allow every person who wishes to address the board on agenda item to do so during or before the board's consideration of the item. That's number 2. A board may establish reasonable rules for public comments, including rules that limit the total time a member of the public can address.
And those are the reasonable rules that we've established, that we're going to be open to customer, citizen comments when we go into open session in city council.
It's before, there's no action being taken or requested, so before
Right.
any action is.
I know there's no
taken,
action being taken, it just says that this means every open meeting, not just regular meetings. That's, I mean, it's not that I want everybody to talk, it's that they changed the law.
And we have also,
They're given the opportunity to speak, it's just not at this point.
Maybe we will have to have another ruling on that, because I don't think that's what it said.
I'm going to have to turn to our attorney because the way it's
Oh, I
interpreted, the
understand.
way it's seen, and some of what I've been seeing in some written white papers on this particular issue, that the council does have the authority to say that it's going to be limited in whatever we do in our briefing and our work session. We can open it up in city council, and that's the action I've taken.
Yes,
If
sir.
I'm wrong in that, if it's illegal, advise me as such right now, we'll change.
You're fine.
We are fine. Okay.
Can I ask a point of clarification from the city attorney as well? In the briefing session, if the council gives us input or direction to come back with a change, there's still going to be an action item at a later date on a contract, and at that point is when the action is actually taken. So even if the council provides some direction today, they can do that. Is that
Sure,
correct?
and then you'll take comments that I assume that everyone here will be afforded the opportunity to speak in citizen appearance.
And based on what inputs we've received from our citizens, but we can also ask staff to do something based on what we hear from our citizens in the council session as well.
Sure.
So nothing, whatever is what we decide, whatever thoughts we put on the table during
Whatever
the briefing session
information-
can be amended and changed where we get out there in terms of what we hear
Whatever
from our citizens.
information that the staff provides you with tonight is for educational purposes. The citizens are here to hear that as well. If you then provide information that you wish them to bring back something, then obviously the citizens will have a right to sign up a citizen's appearance and give you their opinion about what they hear from staff and from council.
Okay.
Let me ask one more question. Is it possible to move the briefing presentation to council agenda from here, item A, briefing solid waste contract? Is it possible just to move this to front on the agenda?
Does the entire council wish to do this?
Can you do that, move from briefing to
That's what I'm
the
asking.
agenda?
Sure you
Yeah, you can move it to, yeah.
Here's-
We've
here's
done
the-
it
here's the-
before. We've taken it,
You
we've
moved it
modified
to
the
the back,
agenda
you
anytime
moved
we
it to the
wanted.
front, you moved it during the middle, you've done it all.
Here's the only reason I'm asking. That'll kind of connect the pieces a little bit more for us to, during our discussion, we'll hear from citizens first, and then we can open up our discussion after we hear from citizens as well.
But if you do that, it does say that that has to be before the action, so then the citizens would be afforded an opportunity to speak at citizens' appearance. Then you would have the work session, and they will not have the information that they'll get
Okay.
beforehand. That's
Okay.
the only problem with that.
Okay, all right. And I'm fine leaving it the way it is.
And on the item that I put on here, I don't mind pulling it and waiting for another meeting. It's something we need to discuss, but if the trash
The
takes
Republic
longer.
is a top priority.
Yeah, it's a top priority.
Yeah.
Trash is a top priority.
It's a big investment.
Well, what I would like to do is to begin the discussion on the Republic contract in here. And obviously, it's going to go into city council, there's no question of that. Because we have our citizens here and they need an opportunity to speak. And we will always consider that input. Okay. Okay, so how much time do we need just, for this briefing? Oh, there he is. Great. Mr. Raven.
3 minutes, of course. All right.
Maybe it's necessary, well, it's not necessary, but I feel an obligation to let our citizens know that we, all of us in this room and all of us around this table have been impacted by the Republic contract in one way or another. I know myself, things changed, and I was a little dismayed at how it impacted me personally, and of all the hundreds of emails that I received. We know that things are not right, okay? So what we're attempting to do is to make things right. And tonight we're going to hear some briefings on how we got to where we are, and we're also, council is going to also be giving staff some recommendations and suggestions and some action items in terms of how we can fix where we are today. So we know we got problems, okay? So if you tend to stand up in there and take 2 minutes and tell us how bad things are, you're welcome to do that. For me personally, I can't speak for everybody around the table in terms of council members, but we know things aren't quite right, and we understand that. We're going to be working on that. Okay, Mr. Raymond.
Good evening, Mayor and Council, Duncanville citizens. I'm Greg Ramey. I'm the Public Works Director. And I'll be talking with y'all about the bulk brush and recycling contract. Robin Motor with Republic was going to be here as well to help answer any of your questions that you may have had tonight, but she had a family emergency. So we'll try to bring any of those questions you may have that we can't answer tonight back to her. But we did have a conversation with her earlier today to help us and get through this slide. So again, this is just the agenda that we'll be talking about tonight. Again, we'll close my portion with the discussion and feedback from council. Just going back, looking at background. So the contract that we just finished was awarded in September of 1999. So we had a 20-year contract that was terminated. And I think a lot of folks in Duncanville, that might be the only trash contract that they ever lived with. On 30 October, we did an initial briefing on the solid waste contract to council during the retreat. Let them know that the contract was coming due. We talked a little bit about bidding versus sole source, comparable service level options with other cities, and those costs. In January, at another work session, we were directed to pursue the sole source with Republic, and we got some input on service level options. In terms of what kind of service options that the city wanted us to look at in terms of consideration. Around this time, we were working with Republic on some initial pricing, but the numbers that they were giving us before we really entered into the sole source decision were very high level estimates, because they were not in a position to give us hard numbers unless, in the event that they had to go out to bid. So I know that if you were to go back and look at some of my previous presentations, you might see that the numbers have changed over time and certain things, but that's because as we're getting refined information from Republic, as we're getting refined guidance from council, these slides that we're presenting have morphed and evolved based on changing information. So in April, we talked some more about service levels and associated costs. We were directed to research a possible recycling center in lieu of curbside recycling pickup. We brought that to council. That particular course of action maintained, that service level option remained for consideration throughout, but it didn't really get much traction. I think a key highlight here is May of this year was a new council, and so that also changed some of the stuff from previous discussions. In June, during a briefing session, we presented the different levels of service and the associated costs, and council gave the direction to proceed with option level 3, which was basically the level of service you have today, except it was a bi-weekly recycle pickup instead of weekly. But then, and that's what we brought to council in July, and then at the July council is when service option level 2, which is the current service level that's on the street right now, was ultimately selected, and that was the contract that was awarded. In August is when we had the solid waste town hall meeting. September 21st was when the contract went into effect, but really bulk and brush did not really go into effect until 7 October, which was when we did our first collections under the new requirement of 4 yards and with bundling. Just for council, these are some observations that have been made. Some of these have been made by the city, some have been made by Republic. I tried to distinguish them. So I talked to my folks at the service center. Between start of the contract with the bulk and brush pickup through the 15th of November, we had approximately 200 folks call the service center, and the majority of those had to do with bulk and brush. Resident calls the Republic call center for the first month of this contract you see here. From talking with Robin, 422 is a typical number that they see in the beginnings of a new contract relative to the normal call load. But for a standard, this is significantly high. Of note, what she pointed out is really this 252 inquiry were people calling Republic to get more information about the new contract in terms of bulk and brush. So again, that's really the spike that we saw was bulk and brush related and associated questions. So these are the staff observations. So my staff went through after Republic went through and did their pickups and wanted to get an understanding of what was the reason why the bulk and brush didn't get picked up in each of these zones. So let me just walk you through the chart real quick. So you'll see the zones. The city is divided up into 4 zones, which each one gets picked up every week. You'll see the number of homes in each of the zones that are affected, and then you see the 2 categories where people didn't get picked up. Sometimes it was over 4 yards and it didn't get picked up, and sometimes it didn't get picked up because it was unbundled. And so you'll just see the quantities of each. So for example, for zone 1, you'll see that 26 homes, or 1% of all the homes in that zone, did not get a pickup because the pile was greater than 4 yards. And 116 folks, or roughly 4% of all homes, did not get picked up because it was not bundled. So again, the total amount was 142 homes, which is 5.3% of that area. When you go down to the total, you'll see the numbers, basically 1%, a little over 1% had an over large brush pile, and almost 3% had unbundled brush that did not get picked up, for a total of 4% non-collection.
Question.
Sir?
Some of the input I got that I actually went out and investigated personally was it was tagged that they were not cut into 4-foot sections. Where does that particular item fall in terms?
I think it would be on the unbundled.
Would that fall, that would come under unbundled?
We were looking for big piles, or if it was a small pile, why didn't it get picked up, is because it was unbundled, which really meant that the people there were not able to throw it in the back of the truck. Because that was really the big change, is we had a claw truck before, and we went to when we went to 4 yards, we went to basically people having to throw the bulk and brush into the back of a normal garbage truck. So what you do see though in the bullets below it with the follow-ups, so what we did find is that of some of the bundles, took the made the corrections and did get picked up in the following week. So as you go down to November, what you'll see is like a 14 in zone 1. The 14 plus 6 means that we had 14 old bundles that remained, and then 6 more that were new to that week, that were oversized. And then under bulk and brush unbundled, 50 of the first zone that didn't get picked up, plus another 8. And so, again, the 116, what we're saying is 116 people were not picked, were unbundled, and then 66 of them made the correction and got picked up, and then 50 did not make the correction, and so those stayed on the curb. And then there was another 8 new houses that had it. That's sort of how to read those slides. And so what you're really seeing, what you're seeing here is for totals, 64 homes had brush issues that rolled over into the November pickup week, and then there were 14 new piles that did not meet the size or the unbundled requirement. And there you see the zone 2 numbers as well. These are comparatively, yes ma'am.
Could you give us an idea, when you're saying zone 1, 2, 3, 4, we're more accustomed to districts. Could you give us an idea?
Okay, so can I see that real quick, sir? So zone 1 is the area north of Camp Wisdom, and the area that is the main block by the high school, bounded by Cedar Ridge and Wheatland. And then zone 2 is the area between that, from north-south, is bounded by Camp Wisdom in the north, Wheatland Road in the south, Cedar Ridge Drive to the west, and Cockrell Road to the east. Zone 3 is bounded by Wheatland Road to the north, Daniel Dale Road to the south, Cedar Ridge Drive / Santa Fe Trail to the west, and then to the city limits on the east. And then week 4 sort of is, I don't even want to call it, an L, bounded by Wheatland Road, partially on the north, then going down Cedar Ridge to Daniel Dale and heading east on Daniel Dale, and then the rest of the city. And this was the flyer that went out in the mail and was presented on the internet and was presented at the town hall.
Do you have a copy of that?
We have this one there.
Thanks.
And the reason why we did it like that is we worked with Republic many iterations, because what we had to do was try to break the city into routes that made sense for them, that was informed, one, by number of customers and a particular zone for them, as well as their historical understanding about where what kind of bulk and brush that they were looking at in each of the areas. So that's how we built the zones. And we only have data for 1 and 2 just because we're still in the middle of collections in November. Before I went on, were there any questions about this slide? I think this is sort of some additional observations. So Republic has actually issued 12 of the recycle carts since inception, so that's just within the last month. And as mentioned before, boom truck is still an option that Republic offers on an on-call basis between, and the payment is worked out between the resident and Republic. So in October we had 16 residents received a boom truck service. In November we had another 16. Again, that's just through now. But so far, only one pile was greater than the $100 minimum. And so $100 minimum is basically what it costs for them to come and pick up your typical load.
We also sell a boom truck as well for the city, that the city owns.
City does have a boom truck that it uses to support the park and street department drainage.
It does not have a dedicated operator.
Doesn't have a dedicated.
It's only used as supplemental when we need to use it for our uses.
We have 13 people in the city that take advantage of the Mobility Challenge garbage collection. And again, that's not part of the bulk and brush, but these are the ones where Republic will actually go to the house and pick up the garbage for the Mobility Challenge. And again, the key takeaways is the majority of non-collected brush is bundling, and very few of the oversized brush piles were greater than 10 cubic yards. So they were bigger, they were larger than 4 yards, but not less than 10 yards. In fact, they approximated about 5 piles out of all those piles that we looked at were greater than 10 yards. And so just for 10 yards is probably about the length of this table to about here or so. We all had the 4 yard was what we presented at the town hall and the National Night Out. That we did a mock-up of 4 yards. So the communication that we. Oh yes, sir.
You go back to that last slide.
This one here.
No.
This one here.
Yes. So the numbers you're providing now, this is after the new contract. Did we have this data before? Any of this data before we started?
No, because we didn't have an issue. We had before we had a different level of service where.
But the question would have been still whether did we have a lot of 10, do we have a lot of 4? We still had we didn't research that at all.
That was never calculated.
Okay.
There were no limits on the brush, so there was no reason to figure out. I mean, but as you remember, when we did our workshops and we showed you some pictures, there were some that were much, much larger than 10 cubic yards. But probably for the most part, they're probably mostly under 10 or less. But there was no reason to figure out how many because that was part of the service was unlimited.
Carl, thank you.
So just to brief you on communication, so again, we've been sending out information to the public since July. Again, in August, we did the town hall. We've sent out direct mail newsletters like the one that we just sent out. The brochures, they've been posted at the City Hall, they've been posted at the Service Center. We're working on a door hanger that's more informative. This is just a draft up here, but the intent would be to put it on the door. Republic does tags, but sometimes people don't see them because they're on the brush pile or they don't. So we would supplement with door hangers if whatever they're doing has a reason, violation. Why, just let people know why their stuff didn't get picked up. I don't think people can talk, right? Okay. Question we can have?
Not right now.
Okay. So we have postcards that would be coming out. The stuff is on, we put all the information on our website, the LED signboard, social media. The neighborhood sign reminders, those are what we put out in each of the zones to let people know that their week is coming up for bulk and brush. So again, this was the levels of service that were presented the day that we went to council for the vote. Again, the previous contract is what's in yellow. That was the level of service we had under our old contract and the price. Level of service 1 was the level of service that most closely matched the previous service. The one change was that unlimited what was under our previous contract, but 10 yards, unlimited is not really a choice anymore. 10 yards is the new unlimited, but is the 10 yards. So that would have been at 10 yards in level at option 1. Level 2 again was the one that was ultimately selected with the level of service you see there, twice a week bag, which is currently no change. Once a week recycling through a bin, or people that do a lot of recycling can have the cart. And then we went to the 4-yard max with bundling. These were the other, and then you can so on. You can see the other levels of service that we looked at. And we can come back to this one as we go through. That will help your discussion.
So can I ask you something?
Yes, sir.
On the previous $11.27 of what we got, there was just no way we're going to get anything like that.
We were not the old
at that level of service.
That's correct. We were benefiting from a 20-year-long contract with
Duncan.
which was based off of different assumptions on recycling. It was a different market on recycling when that contract was awarded. And then they used a different index that they no longer use as well. So they had so basically we were benefiting from an artificially low.
Did that price get established in 1999?
Yes. And then it only walked up.
And the
based on-
escalations were based on 1999 methods.
So it stayed the same though?
So for 20 years, the escalations that were in there were based on old methodology. So essentially, it did not keep up with market rates.
But we benefited from it, and then Republic bought Duncan and honored their contract. So that's why we had to do something. It was that.
Okay, thank you. So here's some more just questions for council discussion and feedback. So again, the first one is, do we want to change bulk and brush amounts from 4 cubic yards bundled to 10 cubic yards unbundled with boom truck? And then we want to look at bulk and brush once per month or bi-weekly. Let me run through them all, and then I'll turn it over to council for your input.
I want to ask you one question.
Ma'am?
I have a copy here of a PowerPoint that you did before, if you'll go back to the last one. No, right there. And the prices are different.
You're right, ma'am. The prices that we had there were a pre-decision on whether or not we were going with Republic as a sole source, and so they gave us very rough estimates because they wanted to make sure that their pricing, they weren't going to give out their pricing if they had to go to bid.
So some of it, if you noticed, and at the time when we gave you those, we told you they were estimates, rough estimates from Republic. And if you notice, some went up. Some of those options actually went down from what that was estimated back at that time.
I don't see any that went down.
So I think option 3 did, the resolution.
Option 3?
And option 4.
Well, 4 isn't exactly the 4 on here. So you've got 6 on here and only 5 on
Well,
here.
again, these numbers and courses of action have been massaged as we continue to meet with council and get guidance over levels of service that give you not the price. And then as Republic was able to get with their corporate office and do get us the exact rates.
Well, the unbundled oversized bulk and brush pickup on here is $75 additional, and there it's $100. So that's a large
difference.
It's not, that's
Well,
not.
again, I can say those were estimates previously, and these were the numbers that were contracted. How they did the final pricing.
I will say that in the future, our vendors or partners need to be very careful as to the numbers that they submit us, because once they give us a number, then we obviously remember that. What I usually do in my line of work is that if I'm estimating something that is an expenditure, I overestimate and come back down, as opposed to apparently what happened here was underestimating and then going back up. One could argue it almost looks like a little bit of a bait and switch. One could argue that. I'm not.
The fact remains that we asked for estimates, and it's very important to understand what Mr. Ramey has said, is that this particular vendor, Republic, is in a competitive environment. And when we ask for publication of estimates in a competitive environment, they have to be very careful in terms of what we are going to release in public, and what's going to be assumed as fact, and what's going to be understood as an estimate. And so what we really need to understand, the competitive environment that these estimates were given to us in, is something that we have to give consideration to in terms of Republic's understanding of what they're doing and what we asked for. If we didn't want any estimates in terms of the competitive environment, we shouldn't have asked for any. But we did because we wanted to get an understanding of what the competition looked like. There's only three. There's only three companies that do this today. And that's why we were very, very concerned about how we should go about whether we renew or put out a new contract with the Republic or go with two new ones, and what was the understanding. So focusing on this particular aspect of what was estimated and what we went with in terms, now understanding what Mr. Ramey said, when we came back and we went away from estimates and we were looking at actual numbers, there was full disclosure. I take objection to any statement about our vendors trying to, even an argument that there was a bait and switch. I object to that. We're dealing with competent individuals, we're dealing with individuals of integrity, and this was an estimate. We asked for an estimate. The competitive environment says you do not disclose what you consider to be proprietary information that could be deleterious to your particular competitive environment. That's what we're in. That's what we were in. This is where we are today.
Now, I would just say that though, on the bundle pickup, that's a big difference. It's a
Understood.
huge difference. And
Understood.
for an estimate, and when you have people that, if they have a tree that goes down in a storm, that's big. So that had more to do with them than a couple of dollars on the.
Understood.
Mr. Ramey, I want to ask again, today if we go back, or we can't even, you're saying we can't even go back to what we had.
We wouldn't be able to go back to an unlimited.
Okay, so if we, let's say we decided to do unlimited and we decided to do the number one, say we decided to pay for it, we decided to eat it as a city or whatever, is that possible?
You're talking about the city subsidizing the delta between what it used to be and what it is now.
Right now, to even get close, we're nearly $7 and something over right now.
That's
just to
still
get
taxpayer
close.
money that's doing the subsidy though, Mr.
That's what I'm trying to say.
So perhaps it'd be easier if we could finish the slides and then come back to those questions. If you don't mind, Councilman Anderson. So I think we can show you some different options, some different deltas, and there's some other things at play that we want to make sure we all understand too. So if we could finish it, that's okay, Mayor.
So the second one was how long can bulk and brush be set out before collection?
Let's get to the cost part.
Okay. I don't know if can you all see that with the door? So the recycling collection frequency has got some areas that I think that would be helpful for you to consider. Right now, of course, recycling is once a week, but we could reduce the frequency of collection to every other week, bi-weekly, and that would save $1.45 a month per house. We had also said, well, you can eliminate curbside recycling and have that offset bulk and brush services. And then we could also, pulling up one of the previous requests, operate a city recycle center about $1.70 a month per house. And that would be basically having an area in Duncanville set up on Saturdays where people could bring their recycling locally. A lot of the cost for recycling is just having them drive through a city twice a week. So those are really where some cost savings can be examined as well.
Okay, between the second to the last and the last, eliminate curbside recycling and apply cost savings to offset increased bulk and brush service, a minus $4.75 a month per household. And then the bottom one, city recycle center operating cost, is a plus $1.70 on the bill.
That's correct.
So that would actually, if you put those together, would be
it would be
$3.05.
Yes, ma'am. $3 a month.
Now, one thing that I would like to just kind of point out, and I don't think we've gotten these numbers, but we know if we do away with recycling and go to this recycling center, we know we've already had a lot of the discussion about recycling. The market has changed dramatically. And there's less things that are being able to be recycled that there's a market for. But recognize too that if you do away with recycling, or you go to the recycling center, do away with recycling, even if you go to the recycling center, you're going to have less of a collection. So there will be more going to the waste stream, to the landfill. So there's going to be some more landfill charges. We don't really know. We have not had time to really estimate that, but I just want you to know that, and I don't think it's going to offset that number tremendously, but there is some cost. We just don't really know what that is.
Fill in one blank, Mr. Hugman, on what you just said. That blank is, how do we pay for garbage going into the landfill? It's what, a ton? Or about a
Yes.
pound?
Pay by
By ton.
By the ton.
tonnage,
So that's the blank that wasn't there. So what you're saying is more garbage going into the landfill, the garbage trucks weigh more, we have more going in.
If
gonna
it's not
cost us
going
more
to
go
the recycling stream,
We
it's
pay
going to
the
probably
dump on
go.
the
It's going to change our other rate then.
It'll change our, well, no, it won't, because
Well, pay me now, pay me later.
Republic, it's baked into our charges. We charge the customers. Republic does not pay the landfill charges. We
We
do
do.
separately because it's a separate
Separate charge.
landfill. So what I'm just saying, that's still a cost of solid waste.
Okay.
That's part of the cost that everyone pays for. It's not just the Republic charge, it's also the landfill charges, the household hazardous waste collections, the litter crew are all part of that fee that we pay on our bill.
So are they charging us now for the people that don't recycle and throw all their things in the trash and they pick it up?
Well, that was factored in. I mean, we factored that into our landfill charges. So I mean, we know what we've been paying historically on landfill. But what I'm saying is if we change the recycling dramatically, then we know that it's probably going to have an impact on the landfill.
So that's billed exactly what you take in each
Correct.
time.
Yes.
They measure the truck as it goes.
Right.
in.
That's correct.
Right.
So so anyway, I mean, back to your point, Councilmember Jameson, yes, if you combine those two, you would be looking at a $3 per month less charge over the current level of service. We would probably see, like I said, some increase. I don't know how much that is, or whether, I don't know, I can't say that that's going to offset that $3 or, overcome that. But it's that much, but there would be some, we just don't know. But we also know that there's a change in how much is being able to take in now in the recycling. We just haven't had enough experience yet to be able to quantify that yet either. So, and I would like to, before we finish, I want to go to one more thing too. Greg, is it your next slide?
Sure.
Okay, well.
Oh,
yeah.
there is one more I know about that. So again, these are just some visual representations of the difference between the two 4 cubic yards and 10 cubic yards for ranges, roughly 4 yards, 5 refrigerators, full-size refrigerators is roughly 10 cubic yards. Just again, some visual
Approximately,
understanding.
it'd be approximately a pile that's 6 feet by 5 feet high by 9 feet long. So it's like I said, probably the size of this table, 3 or 4 feet high.
Unbundled.
Unbundled. If you go to the boom truck, it would be unbundled then. So we'd be back to what we had before.
Yep.
It goes in this.
With just a little bit of
That's what
a
everybody wants.
constraint.
Right. So
Oh, you
Go
want to
ahead.
talk now? Okay. So, so the debris contractor, so we have in certain periods of time supplemented or augmented Republic's bulk and brush, or mainly the brush pickups, with a debris contractor tied to different events in the city. And so, as you see here in 2014, we had $91,000 of additional brush debris removal costs. In 2017, we had $71,000 of additional debris pickup costs. And then earlier this year in July, we incurred $53,000 in debris. So we're already having to mobilize a contractor periodically based on the brush.
So the reason we wanted to bring this up as well is that with the unlimited brush, we have run into a problem in the springtime. Now, in 2017, we did have a couple of windstorms that created more brush damage, I think especially up in the northern part of the city. But in 2019, this year, we did not have windstorms. That in spring was mostly tree trimming, and we had a lot of big piles, and with a every other week pickup, Republic got way behind, and we had to mobilize our debris contractor. That is money that we had to spend that we are not getting revenue on. And it is not the same as an emergency that you would have, like a tornado or something where there is a declared emergency, which we would get reimbursed for. So we bring that up because if you go, one, unlimited is really not an option, but this is a good reason why you don't really want to go to unlimited, because 95% of piles as we've seen so far are 10 cubic yards or less. If you go to 10 cubic yards, I think you will satisfy the majority of people, and I think it would also go a long way to keeping it under control when it gets in those heavy peak periods.
I think something else that you need to point out is if you have any neighbors who are contractors, landscape contractors, and you see that there's some piles going out every day, every other day, you know they're not coming out of their yard. You need to report them because we're paying for it. And I know in my district, I've seen it and I've reported it. And we have a lot of contractors in Duncanville, and that can skew what we really see is coming out of Duncanville when you have a contractor bringing his brush pile home and putting it on the curb.
But under the old contract, Councilmember, we really had no way to stop that. If we do put a limit on it of 10 cubic yards, then we would be able to enforce that a lot easier.
But we as a council then need to pass an ordinance to stop it, because that is not their brush.
Well, I know, but under the contract, it was only prohibited construction debris, so, but brush, it was, you know.
Well, you're talking about the contract we have with the trash company. I'm talking about an ordinance for the city.
Oh, right, but I don't think there was an ordinance that prohibited it.
Yeah, well, that may be something that we need to look at, because we did find that there were contractors doing that.
If you would go back to your chart then on the options. So on these options then, you know, we know that the biggest issue so far has been the brush involved. So option one, as Greg pointed out, is the closest that you have to the old contract. That pricing there was based on twice per month, 10 cubic yards. If you wanted to go to 10 cubic yards and stay at the 1 week, once per month, with the one week that's in there right now, what we're trying to do, the designated week, we know it's going to be a little bit, it's going to be less than this amount, but Robin could not tell us today what it is. She said it would be less. It's not going to be half, because even though you go from twice to once, it's not going to be half, because you're still picking up a lot of brush. But it would be something less than that $2.30 delta that's shown between option 2 and 1.
Yeah, we're getting there now.
Can you go to the slide on recycling? With the options
Oh,
of recycling.
okay, that's
Yeah, right there.
okay.
Bullet number 2, what reduced frequency are we talking about?
That was option 3, going to every other week on the recycling pickup.
So we basically twice a month instead of once a
Correct.
week.
But I think, and I think some of the comments though too were with the bins, some people that might not work to go every other week with the bins, but that was the option. That originally y'all told us to come back with the contract, and then you changed to option 2. So but that would be every other week.
Greg, going back to where we had town halls and talking about the possibility of a recycling center, do you recall any citizen input in terms of agreement or disagreement with having no recycling done on the curb and every citizen having to cart their recycling to a center? Do we have any input on that?
I don't recall that personally, and I don't know how to,
The reason I'm asking it does represent the largest cost savings, but there's 2 offsets to that large cost savings. One is inconvenience to our citizens, and the other is the absolute unknown dollar amount we may have to pay, likely very strongly have to pay going to the landfill. So there's dollars, there's an upfront $3 savings, but there's an unknown hard cost that we don't know about, which is more money being paid to the landfill because they have your trucks, and whether our citizens are even agreeable to having no recycling at their home and having to cart it off to a landfill or to a recycling center in the first place. I don't know the answer to that.
I just could say, I mean, I'm against any less recycling. We don't hardly do any recycling as it is, in my opinion. And you want to talk about attracting young people and different people to the city, that's the people that are using recycling more so. That's the people that are live with what we leave in our landfills. I mean, we have to think about that. It's not about us, when we're thinking about this recycling. And so I mean, that's not a good move for the environment, but it's also a bad move for marketing for the city.
But what he's
So
talking about
Monty,
too,
your
though.
recommendation would be to not consider that having no recycling at the curb at all.
No, I'm saying you keep it at least what it is.
That's what I'm
Don't
saying.
reduce it.
You're saying basically eliminate the recycling center.
Yes.
Okay, that's all right. I want to make sure I understand. Yeah.
I mean,
And I agree.
I wouldn't mind having a whole bunch more, but I know we can't afford it. I know we have to pay for it. So I mean, I know it's got to come from somewhere. So
Well, there's this unknown bogey hanging out there that it could cost us much more to take it.
So you don't think every other week, you don't think every other week?
no, I mean, I know people that recycle right now. Mostly younger people that are recycling, and it's full. It's packed right now, and it's working. It's stuff is going into the bin. They'll have 2 bins, or they'll even purchase one. I know some that have purchased.
They've gotten off to the bigger.
They got the bigger ones. I'm seeing more and more of the bigger blue ones out. I think you'll see more and more of that over time. I mean, we need this. We need to do this. We need to consider what we're leaving behind for our grandkids. I mean, we need to.
Greg, have you finished the briefing?
I finished what I had to say, yes, sir.
What I think we should do is recess the briefing. In other words, don't conclude it right now. Recess it, take it to the city council chambers, give our citizens the opportunity to give us their input. What am I saying? Recess it here, take it into city council, reconvene it in city council, give our citizens the opportunity to give us the input, and then we reconsider the input and what we've heard in the briefing, and in terms of what we want to recommend to staff. Does that work with council?
Who gets the cars?
City secretary.
City secretary, she's right
Who's the
here.
city secretary?
She's right here.
Chris.
Hi.
Raise your hand.
Oh, the good-looking one down there.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. So, Ms. Jameson, we are at 6 minutes before convening city council. What's the right word? We're going to table this, or we're going to?
Yeah, table it and then bring it back.
Next week.
Yeah, we can move through I think we've got time to go through the calendar. Table that one. Okay.
All right.
We'll go through the city calendar.
Okay, Mayor and Council, real quick, if we could, to talk with y'all on the calendar. There were a couple things in December that we wanted to try to get with you on.
Folks, we're still in session. I need your quiet, please. Thank you.
Looking in December, we were wanting to have a joint meeting with the EDC on Tuesday, December 3rd. And this is to talk about the property and cost analysis. However, the consultant is not going to be ready with that analysis. We gave her some more options to look at and analyze, and so she was not going to be able to be ready. So Jessica has checked with the EDC to see if they'd be available the 17th, and a number of them are not. But the EDC has their regular meeting on December 16th, Monday. So if council is amenable to that, a meeting like at 5 or 5:30 on Monday the 16th, we could have that joint meeting to go over that discussion.
I will be out of the country.
So you wouldn't have been here the 17th either?
No.
I'm okay on the 16th.
Wait a minute, I'm hearing what, yes, yeah, you're.
Yeah, I'm okay.
Oh,
He's okay.
Okay, not okay. John, not okay, Mark, okay. So the 16th is not okay.
Okay. We're
Anything
going to be
later?
getting, anything later, we're pushing into the holidays.
What about
then.
later that week? Or is the whole week
Are you
now?
all right?
That until when city offices close for all this time.
So the week of the 16th is not possible for.
Oh, no, yeah, the city offices are only closed this time. This is ISD. I don't know why.
It is for me, I'm okay that week, but.
Right, but the week of the 16th is out for you entirely?
Yes, I'm gone from.
No. Seagoville has the council meeting on that. So any other night that we have available.
But Johnette, you're not available
No, but,
anytime?
you know, the next week I can. Like the 22nd.
City offices are closed. 24th,
24th,
25th, 24th,
22nd's on a Sunday.
That's when I get back.
The 18th or the 19th then, is that a possibility?
Until the 22nd.
Until when?
The 22nd.
22nd.
Well, we also have to see when the EDC is available. So, I mean, that week of Christmas was bad. I just think a lot of people were traveling then too,
Well,
so.
why don't we do it after the holidays?
Well, we can, I mean, it's.
Well, I think we should at some
Push till
point.
after.
Yeah.
I think that we should.
Okay, I mean, that's.
I would prefer that all 7 of us are available. This is pretty important. I'm not want to do one without somebody.
So what about your regular meeting is January 7th? Would y'all be able to meet like at 4 o'clock on the 7th if we can get EDC to come early before council?
Can't do it on the 9th, yeah, next week.
No, because she has to do some other analysis.
Yeah, she would be ready, yeah.
Could we also check for just 2 days, that way, you know,
Yeah.
the 6th, June?
Is the 6th the regular EDC meeting?
No, they don't meet until the 4th Monday.
All right, well, how about the 8th?
The 8th?
Since you have a conflict on Mondays, is Wednesday the 8th or Thursday the 9th available in January?
Okay for me.
8th or 9th is okay with me.
All right, so we'll try for the 7th at 4 o'clock. If we can't do that, then we'll shoot for the 9th, probably like the 6th.
The 9th, I cannot. Yeah, I can't the 9th. 9th
7th
is
to 4
the
o'clock.
chancellor's Christmas party.
Okay, 7th at 4 o'clock.
January. Oh.
January.
It's over Christmas, is that right?
January 9th. Yeah, we're in January now. We're looking at January 7th or January 9th.
Okay, no problem.
Okay.
Quit
January 9th, we'll say 6 o'clock. The first choice though is the 7th at 4 o'clock.
Is that right?
Good with everyone?
January 7th, 4 o'clock is first choice. EDC has to work it, and the consultants have to work it. Second choice is January 9th at 6 o'clock. Right?
Whereas I'd say my first choice was
Okay.
Um, Also then, the second thing that we wanted to find out was if you are available then earlier on Tuesday, December 3rd, or Tuesday, December 17th for about an hour for the city attorney to discuss open meetings and public information, some of the changes in legislation regarding those.
17th?
What you said, I know you said you're gonna be out, so the 3rd, is that open, if everybody can come?
Okay.
Early on the 3rd?
December.
December 3rd.
December
Yeah, we're back in December now.
Yeah, that's fine. Okay.
All right, so
So we're doing that instead of,
instead of the joint.
At 4?
So move the open
Five.
meeting city attorney on the 17th
5,
to the 3rd.
5, how
Yeah.
long?
5 o'clock?
5.
Need
Don't
that.
work all day.
It depends on how long y'all want. If you want an hour and a half, or if you think you can do it in an hour. I don't know how many questions y'all may have. This is really for y'all an opportunity.
So we're moving open meeting on city attorney from the 17th
to the
to
3rd.
the 3rd at 5 o'clock.
Okay, 5 o'clock. All right. I think that was all.
Okay. Okay, 7:01. And executive sessions will be after city council. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the city council meeting, City of Duncanville, November 19th, 2019, and the timestamp is 7:13. We are going to have a slight change in order because of the importance of the agenda items that we have. And so as things are going to progress, here's basically how the game plan is going to work. We still have not finished discussing the Republic contract on brush and trash. So we have recessed our work session. We're going to reconvene the work session in here. And as I mentioned to those individuals that were present in our briefing session, those who want to speak on that particular item are going to be invited to speak when we get to that item, when we reconvene it as a briefing item here in City Council chambers. But essentially, we're only changing the venue, but we will be in what's specifically and technically still the briefing session. Once we finish talking about trash, I'm going to close the briefing session and we're going to reconvene the city council meeting, because I'm going to recess the city council meeting to go into the working session. There's a lot of deer in the headlights, but let me know, okay, just follow it, we'll be okay, all right? Just understand that we're going to be following the template as it goes. It's just that we're going to be bringing in the trash into this particular venue, which is city council chambers, but we're going to be technically in the briefing session, okay? Now, in terms of citizen comments, I have some citizen comment cards here. I have 3 citizen comment cards that do not apply to the trash contract. So I'll be calling forward those individuals to speak during the normal customer citizen comment section that's here on the agenda. Those individuals that have submitted to me citizen comment cards on the Republic contract, I will call you forward when we get to that point and reconvene the briefing session, okay? Just trust me, okay? We'll be okay. We'll be there. All right. So the first item that we have is our invocation. And the invocation is going to be given to us by Andy Roberts from Faith Baptist Church. Please rise.
Let's pray. Heavenly Father, first, we thank you for being a good and wise God. Thank you for all who are in attendance tonight. Thank you for the ability to be involved in useful work and for the honor of bearing appropriate responsibilities. Lord, as citizens, we are told by your word to obey the governing authorities, since you have established those very authorities to promote peace and order and justice. I pray for our mayor and city council, and I ask that you grant them wisdom to govern amid the conflicting interests and issues of our times, a sense of the welfare and true needs of our people, a keen thirst for justice and rightness, confidence in what is good and fitting, the ability to work together in harmony even when there is honest disagreement, personal peace in their lives and joy in their task. I pray for the agenda set before them today. Please give an assurance of what would please you and what would benefit those who live and work in and around our city of Duncanville. In Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Please join me in the pledges to our flags. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands,
one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Honor the
Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one indivisible.
Thank you. Please be seated. The next item on the agenda is the mayor's report. I'm going to dispense with that in the interest of time. Are there any council members' reports? Mr. McBurnett.
Not so much a council member report, but as a comment, and since we have a good audience here, it's a good time to bring this up. Our winter month averaging comes up, so that affects your sewer rates on your water bill. So it's averaged on the months of December, January, and February. So if you pay attention to your usage, you should have better sewer bills. Thanks.
Mr. Cooks.
Yes, good evening. I'd like to first recognize, I was invited to an event here in Duncanville at the Hilton Garden Inn at the National Council of Negro Women. And when I arrived there, I was actually invited by one of our guests, but only to realize that 3 of our citizens was being recognized as a distinguished people in the audience. And that is Miss Marilyn Jones, Miss Brenda Land, and Miss Nettie Matlock was recognized at the National Council of Negro Women. If you see any of those ladies, please join me in recognizing them for representing our city at that particular event. And then secondly, I'd like to ask our Duncanville family to pray for our Duncanville citizens who's members of the Antioch Baptist Church, where the late Dr. Kerry Wesley is the pastor. He recently passed away, and I know that many of our citizens live in Duncanville as a member of that church, and so I want to personally extend my prayers on behalf of the Duncanville citizens who attend Antioch Baptist Church with the Dr. Kerry Wesley. And then last but not least, just want to remind others in District 4 that November 23rd, this particular Saturday at the Senior Center, from 9:30 to 11, hosting a district meeting for items that you want to discuss around our city. Please come hear our city manager as he talks about things that has happened in the city of this given year. And then your comments or feedback for anything that you would like to see in the upcoming year for 2020. That concludes my report.
Mr. Anderson.
Thank you, Mayor. I wanted to make you aware of a new business we have open in town. It's called Mud Hook. You may have seen it in the Dallas Morning News today. There was a really nice article written about it. And what I wanted to make clear, what I wanted to make you aware of, is that the owner of this business is a local guy who became a businessman. And so what I would like to ask all the residents of Duncanville, that if you're interested in going in business, you're already here, you're living here, you're going to be more committed to the city than somebody from outside. Step forward and let our economic development director know about that and what you need to start that business, because that's the way that Duncanville builds its own place and its own culture, by locals getting in business and being part of the community. And with that, this Thursday night, November 21st, at the Senior Center, the cities of Duncanville, DeSoto, and Cedar Hill are sponsoring a book tour from a guy named Charles Marone, Chuck Marone, who's an engineer like our Mr. Ramey here in town. They're two of a kind there who'll be here to talk about this and how you build a resilient cities, how you have the best trash, how you have the best sewer, how you have the best small businesses, how you have culture. So you're all invited to come out. I hope you come out and listen. It'll be very entertaining, I promise you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Harvey.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to piggyback on what Monty just said about Mud Hook Bar and Grill. If you are interested in going there, Monday they are closed, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday from 5 p.m. to midnight, Friday from 5 p.m. to 2 a.m., Saturday from noon to 2 a.m., and Sunday from 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. So I would like to encourage all of you to go. They serve burgers, craft beer, and cocktails, and they also have a chicken sandwich, which I love a whole lot, called the Fight Club.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Hugman, City Manager report.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. We know that Thanksgiving is coming up next week. Reminder that city offices will be closed on Thursday and Friday. And we wish everyone a happy Thanksgiving. And of course, then what follows right after is Christmas. And we want to make everyone aware, if you're not already, but the annual Christmas parade will be Friday, December the 6th. The parade will start at 7 p.m. And then the tree lighting will be at 8 p.m., followed by various choirs and singing, and the event will last until 10 p.m. So again, that's Friday, December 6th. It's free, so please come out and enjoy the Duncanville Christmas Parade.
Thank you. Moving on to item number 2 on our agenda, the proclamations and presentations. The first proclamation recognizes November 2019 as Native American Heritage Month. Mr. Anderson will do that presentation.
And I think we have, let's see, Ms. Johnson. You have, Cannon Johnson, Mr. Johnson, and Dr. Robert Malone, and Christina Cox. Would you come forward, please? Come on. That's all right. Okay, whereas on August 3rd, 1990, President George H.W. Bush declared the month of November as National American Indian Heritage Month, thereafter commonly referred to as Native American Heritage Month. And whereas the President authorized federal, state, and local governments, groups, and organizations, and the people of the United States to observe such month with appropriate programs, ceremonies, and activities. And whereas this commemorative month aims to provide a platform for Native American people in the United States to share their culture, tradition, music, crafts, dance, and ways and concepts of life. And whereas this gives Native American people the opportunity to express to their community and to the city, county, and state officials their concerns and solutions for building bridges of understanding and friendship in the local area. Now, therefore, Barry L. Gordon, Mayor of the City of Duncanville, Texas, do hereby proclaim the month of November 2019 as Native American Heritage Month. In the City of Duncanville, I urge all citizens to support local efforts to observe such month with appropriate programs, ceremonies, and activities. Help me welcome this important time.
City of Duncanville, City Council, Mayor Gordon, and to the citizens of the DFW Metroplex, thank you in honoring American Indians and Alaska Native community, and specifically the Urban Intertribal Center of Texas. My name is Kanan Johnson. I'm from Wewoka, Oklahoma, the capital of the Seminole Nation of Oklahoma. I'm Seminole Creek and Chickasaw of the Tallahassee Band and the Bird Clan, and I'm able to serve as the Director of Human Resources for the Urban Intertribal Center of Texas. We are a Native American nonprofit founded on November 5th, 1971 in Dallas, Texas, and we believe in the principles of excellence, quality, loyalty and respect, teamwork, tribal community, and cultural awareness. These principles are mirrored by our mission to strengthen and encourage the health and economic well-being of American Indians and Alaskan Natives. We offer primary health care services, dental, pharmacy, employment and training, and social services to all members of the 573 federally recognized tribes at no cost to them. Texas is the 4th largest state for American Indians and Alaskan Natives to call home. There are over 320,000 American Indians and Alaskan Natives in Texas and over 80,000 in the 11 counties of Dallas. As we approach our 50th year anniversary, our golden year in 2021, we are excited for the groundwork we are about to do in upcoming 2020. We have recently placed new board officers, hired an additional physician to expand our services. We keep strong partnerships with UT Southwestern, UNT Health Science Center, Texas A&M Dental, and also close friendships with the citizens of Duncanville and furthermore DFW Metroplex. I would like to give special recognition to our newly elected chairwoman, Christina Cox. And last but certainly not least, the Board of Trustees has recently appointed our new Chief Executive Officer, and I'm honored to introduce Dr. Robert Malone. Dr. Robert Malone received his medical doctorate from St. Matthew's University School of Medicine in Orlando, Florida, and is a member of the Spirit Lake Sioux Tribe. With a medical degree and a master's in business association, Dr. Malone brings a holistic view of healthcare, balancing the business and the patient side of care. Dr. Malone has cared for patients within multi-hospital networks, in and outpatient care, acute, ambulatory, chronic, and managed care facilities, assisted living, rehabilitation, preventative medicine, public health administration, and risk management services. It is my honor to introduce Dr. Robert Malone.
I would like to thank the City Council and also the residents of Duncanville. It's a great honor to be here. Thank you for having us. I came from northern Minnesota, so I brought the cold weather down. I apologize for that. I would like to also thank you for recognizing the Native American Heritage Month. We're very honored to be here, and we're very grateful for the recognition. I want to thank you. I'm from Texas. It's great to be home, and if you ever need anything, please feel free to let me know. You can go to our Facebook webpage and find us there. And I wanted to thank you again.
Thank you all.
Thank you. We really appreciate this. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
The next proclamation we have is designating November 30th, 2019 as Small Business Saturday. And accepting that is Sherry Kennedy from Proforma, a local business, and the Duncanville Economic Development Corporation Board. Members present, President Mr. Steve Dial, and anyone else? Mr. Galbraith? Any other members of the EDC present? Okay. Why don't you hold that? Whereas, small business is the cornerstone of our free enterprise system, and since the birth of this country has represented opportunity, independence, and the fulfillment of dreams for generations of Americans. And whereas, small business owners who work long hours, juggling family and career responsibilities and serving as community volunteers, are integral to our country's prosperity and to the vibrancy of our community. These entrepreneurs are fundamental to our economy. Through the opportunities offered by the men and women who own and operate small businesses, many of our citizens are able to pursue their dreams of a better life. And whereas, to recognize Small Business Saturday, which is Saturday, November 30th, a day to celebrate and support small businesses that create jobs, boost the economy, invigorate neighborhoods in our community, and to encourage shops and locals. And whereas the City of Duncanville wishes to recognize small businesses for the important role they play in keeping our local economy strong. Therefore, I, Barry L. Gordon, Mayor of the City of Duncanville, do hereby proclaim November 30th, 2019 as Small Business Saturday. Sherry, would you like to say a few words?
Hi, thank you so much for the City Council Economic Development for allowing us to come here. Most of you know us. My husband and I have owned Proforma A to Z Specialties for 32 years. We moved to Duncanville and we came in and said we were going to be a part of this community, and I hope that you have seen one or both of our faces around this town. My husband had served on the school board for 21 years. We're here locally. We get involved in things. We love this city, and we're here to support the city wherever we can. If your need for any marketing, promotional items, the city, thank you very much for your business, the school district, and everybody in this community that has used us. We appreciate it, and we're proud to be here. Thank you very much.
I'd just like to say that EDC certainly recognizes the importance of our small business community. They are the backbone of our business community, and we would like to encourage everybody to support our local small businesses. Thanks.
I'd like to highlight a little broader picture of small businesses. We have a lot of folks in this audience that don't run a business per se from a shopping center or a building, but they're entrepreneurs in their own homes and in other venues. We have artists. I'd like to recognize Ann and Tim Perry, if they would.
We're going to do that separately.
Oh, okay. Just want to be sure that we don't overlook small businesses. And if the mayor will be so kind as to cover the whole spectrum of businesses, that would be great. Thank you.
Do my best, Dave. And also, we have with us our Director of Economic Development, Jessica James, and Administrative Assistant, Cynthia Williams. Happy to have you all here. Thank you.
Will you scoot towards the center here for me? Ready? 1, 2, 3. Perfect. Thank you.
All right, now to do what Dave started. We're going to give recognition to the Duncanville Design Studio artists and volunteers that participated in our community wall mural project. If you haven't seen it, this beautiful wall, there it is, that we're having up on the screen while it was underway. It's located at Daniel-Dale and Cockrell Hill. I invite everybody to take a nice little tour of it and drive around. So Jessica, you're going to help me invite these people up. As I call your name, please come up. Tim Perry. Ann Perry. Yeah, can you hand those to them? Curtis Ferguson. Curtis, there he is. Curtis was my art mentor while we were on the project. Curtis has been teaching art for, what, 30 years? At Hastings, right? Or no? At Bird Middle. Yeah, that's why he was a great mentor to me. Hold the brush this way, Mayor. Don't do this, Mayor. You got it. Douglas Gray. Ariana Kimball. Athena Seaton. And J.C. and Williams. I want to thank Councilmember Cooks for being out there with us. It was a really enjoyable time for us to do this, and recognizing what we have done for our city in terms of putting up this mural. It's a wonderful art piece, and to see how it started, to take a blank wall, and the true artists in the group, you know, Tim and Ann and Curtis and others, they made the complete outline. As you see, it started out in just a black outline, and then we, less capable people, were given brushes and paints and said, go color here and go color here. So it was a paint by number kind of thing, but it was a wonderful, wonderful time. So Tim, do you have anything you just? Oh, and yeah, if anyone else is here that participated in painting the wall, please come on up.
We have a number of DISD students here.
Oh, and Councilmember Mac Burnett. Yeah. And we also, do you have the video up? Is the video ready to go? Yes. You have a small video as well.
Good morning, Duncanville. Hey, this is Mark Cook, City Council of Duncanville, and I'm on a community project. Where we are painting a mural here on Copper Hill in Danville. I'm asking you to come out, join us. We are live today here in Duncanville, City of Tampa. I'm asking you to come join us as we paint a mural. James, our Economic Development Director, really, we drove by looking at the district once, and Jessica said, you know, Mark, I think a mural would go great on that wall. What do you think?
How about you, baby? I am painting, James. Y'all paint on me. Where? Well, I messed up that on my jacket. I moved my jacket. Okay. Well, I've got my apron on too. I'm working right now.
Before we go on, why don't you folks introduce yourselves to us?
Oscar.
Alexa. Alora Jules.
Victoria Tovar.
Thank you all for being here. Tim, would you like to say a few words?
Thanks. Thank you, Mr. Mayor and City Council. Thank you, City Council, first of all, for coming up with such a wonderful project for us to do, to bring some art to beautify our city, to help add vibrancy to our community. We really appreciate that. This was, as you can see, and there was so many more people that were involved. We probably had a couple hundred, I would think, over the course of 2 days, so it was a community-wide effort, a very unified effort. The paint days were a lot of fun. We just had a good time out there. So we really appreciate it. The Duncanville Design Studio is an informal group that meets once a month, and if anyone has an inclination to be an artist and to be part of public art in our community, please look us up. We'll figure that out, how you can communicate with us. Thank you.
Thank you very much to all. Thank you again.
Okay, squeeze in, everybody.
Thank you.
For informational purposes, the executive sessions shown on the agenda, the city council will take care of those at the tail end of our city council meeting. Excuse me, the next item on the agenda is citizens' input. And pursuant to section 551.007 of the Texas Government Code, any member of the public has the opportunity to address city council concerning any matter of public business or any posted agenda item. However, the act prohibits city council from deliberating issues not on the public agenda, and such non-agenda issues may be referred to city staff for research and any future action. All persons addressing are subject to council adopted rules and limitations permitted by law. So I have 3 cards that have been submitted that do not address the Republic trash contract. As I said earlier, those individuals who wish to speak on that, I will call you forward when we bring that item back up in our working session that we'll do in here. So the first item I have is Paula Grannon. Pardon me?
I thought I was on the thing with the Republic.
Well, I'm going by what you wrote here.
Okay, I must have marked.
If you preferred it, because it says 10 Mile Creek.
Yeah, I want that one too.
Okay.
Okay.
Please state your name and address.
Paula Brannon, 330 West Orange Street.
Oh, I neglected to mention you have 2 minutes.
Okay.
Thank you.
I would like to state that we don't have a lot of hiking areas and stuff in Duncanville, and I would like to request that you not sell the land around it to builders so that they can build homes and give the homeowners, nice little creek to back up to. Leave it with the citizens that we can enjoy it. I didn't even know it was there. The parts of 10 Mile Creek I had seen, it wasn't something you'd want to go to. But I've been informed otherwise by my neighbors on next door, and pictures that they have shared from their hikes and taking their dogs down there for exercise. And yeah, I would say don't sell it. Put a little bit into it to make it cleaner and safe for anyone to go to it, even people with some disabilities or seniors that don't walk very well. And that's it on that.
So
can I talk about the waste later?
I'll call you back up for that. How's
Thank
that?
you.
Okay, thank you. Dario Crusetto. Please state your name and address, and you have 2 minutes, please.
Dario Crusetto, 900 Hideaway Place, DeSoto, Texas. Good evening, Mayor, Council Member, and citizen of Duncanville. The sister city is not taking a vacation at the expenses of taxpayer, receiving free meals, free entertainments, honors to increase the influence and power, but is the dialogue that allows the understanding between people of different countries so they can respect each other. Key for a dialogue is to have a translation of the word of the people communicating in foreign language to the language that one can understand. To help Duncanville's residents to understand the message in Italian from the sister city Monasterolo, I suggest that instead of using taxpayer money to pay for reception, meal, entertainment, let the guests pay for that, and focus in providing the translation in both languages, Italian and English, of the statement, expressions, description of behavior of people of both countries. Make this translation available in the library or in City Hall of both towns so that everyone can get to know the reality. 4 weeks ago, the Italian mayor from my hometown of Monasteroli Savigliano, Giorgio Bellione, with the travel agency and his nephew and their associate came here apparently misrepresenting Italy, deceiving all of you. They do not follow the rules and transparency required for a public organization, and people of Monasterolo make death threats to me because I provide proof that they deceive the public. Learn from the translation of the report to the police and the tribunal in Italy at http://bit.ly/2mc2ta8 of the death threat with proofs. These are not values of democracy and civilization, mutual respect we want to teach to our grandchildren and future generation. Thank you.
Thank you. Arnoldo Rodriguez.
Yes, my name's Arnaldo Rodriguez. I moved to Duncanville from Dallas, Texas 29 years ago.
State your name for us, please.
Oh, Arnaldo Rodriguez.
And your address?
322 North Capri Drive. I think it's Zone 1. Okay, the problem that we seem to have over there, and I'm not sure this is where I should voice my grievance, but every time we have a strong storm, our power goes out. This last time the power went out 3 weeks ago, something like that. We lost power from 9 o'clock at night till 12 noon the following day, which was a Monday. The time before the power went out, it was out for 4 days. My neighbors got upset that they went and got a generator from Home Depot and to give power to their house. And it seemed like they go ahead and repair it temporarily. It looked like they put a Band-Aid on the problem. They changed the transformer apparently, and they think it's okay. The funny thing about it, well, it's not funny really, but the people across the street, which would be on Capri would be the west side, their power never goes out. The 7-8 times that our power has gone out, their power has never gone out, not one time. Their lights are all on, houses on, porch lights on. Our side, the east side, goes out every single time. Well, I'm talking about when it's a serious storm, you know. It seemed like they're just putting a Band-Aid on the problem. And I just wondering if anything can be done about that. Because, you know, being without power, you can imagine your situation with your family, having no power for 4 days. It's not good. Thank you.
We have made note of that, and contact will be made with Encore, your power provider. Okay, thank you. Okay, moving on to item number 4 on our agenda, which is the consent agenda. City Secretary, if you'd please read the items.
Item 4A, consider the minutes for the November 5th City Council regular meeting. Item 4B, consider a resolution approving the submittal of a Texas Parks and Wildlife Local Park Grant application for Armstrong Park.
Move to approve.
Second.
Is there a second?
Second.
We have a second. All in favor, please vote. Thank you. The item is passed. Okay. At this particular time, we're going to recess our city council meeting, and the timestamp on that is 7:51. We're going to reconvene our working session, and that working session is discussing the item on the briefing of the solid waste contract, which is item 2A on the agenda. And what we'll do at this time is invite those citizens who have given cards to us that would like to speak, have the time now, ask you up, and then we will continue on with discussion with City Council and briefing from Mr. Ramey as appropriate. So the 2-minute time limit would still apply. So Paula Grannon. And for the record, we need you to state your name and address once again for us, please. Thank you.
Paula Brannon, 330 West Orange Street. I don't mind paying more for the trash pickup and recycle and things. You know, granted, we had a, 20-year grant on that. But I don't like paying more for less service. And I think that's what we've gotten. I'm not able to do a lot of work, but I can go around in my yard and pick up some of the dead twigs that have come down and the little bitty tiny branches. And I had a stack of them, probably no bigger than that, just a stack that I had put out with my trash. And they didn't pick it up. It sat out there for 4 pickups, four trash pickups, and they didn't pick it up. So then for the Monday pickup, I put it in a box. I collected a little bit more, and I put it in a box next to my trash. Trash disappeared. The box was still there. The next morning, about 7 o'clock, I heard them outside, and they took my little box of twigs. But they didn't take the big stuff that the neighbors had down the street. So I figured they think that that little box was bulk. And that's not bulk. If it's bagged or in a box or whatever, it should be trash. And we shouldn't have to. Also, who directed, you mentioned that the council was directed to quit fiddling around with others and choose Republic. Who directed? Who made that directive?
Thank you for your question. Amelia Moore.
My name is Amelia Moore. I live at 435 Round Top in Duncanville. And I sent pictures to all of you guys of the garbage that's lining the streets in my neighborhood. Mr. McBurnett, your email's not working, by the way. But the mural is pretty, but next week for Thanksgiving, when people come to Duncanville, when our relatives come, the mural is not going to stand out as much as the garbage-lined streets that only 6 weeks into this contract, we are drowning in garbage. I don't know who made this deal, but it is the worst negotiation anyone has ever done. It's ridiculous. They won't pick up anything except a garbage bag. It's just, but they're selective. I mean, they'll pick up certain houses on certain streets. They'll pick up everything. Side streets, they leave most of it. And we don't recycle glass anymore. Every city around us recycles glass. And this company, which is just right down 20, recycles everything. We should not be filling up the landfill with something because it's not profitable enough for Republic. So, and also I heard from a member of the Chamber of Commerce that Republic is providing beer and wine for their parties. Why is free booze being traded for a contract? I mean, she's a member of the chamber, and she said she doesn't mind paying more because Republic is providing their parties with free beer and wine. And I think that needs to be looked into. And it's just, you guys have got to find a way to fix this. You saw those pictures. That's 2 blocks from my house is that pile of trash. And it's all down Tanglewood, down by the park. There's brush that's been there ever since this program started, this new contract started. And
best as I can tell, this says Robert and Keith Stewart. Do I have that right?
My name's Robert Keith Stewart, live up 518 East Center Street. First of all, thank you, Mayor, for reading my chicken scratch handwriting. I also want to commend the council's actions and efforts to beautify the city. I think it's a long time coming. I appreciate it. Thank y'all. What I do want to speak on is I am one of those statistics that is presented on the PowerPoint slide. It is the brush piles that I do have is a direct result of high winds coming from a very tall, taller than my house, elm tree that was broken. It's about a 3 to 4 inch diameter limb. We cut it up and we placed it out there as best we could. Now I have to figure out how to bundle that with string and twine so it can be picked up. So, you know, I would just ask that you reconsider and recommend that we amend the contract. I gladly would pay, you know, an extra $2.31 a month. Thank you.
Thank you. I believe it's Joe Polly. Is that right?
My name is Joe Polly. I live at 310 North Casa Grande Circle. Been there for 43 years, and we've always had good trash pickup until. And I agree with all these other people. It's about reached the bottom, I guess. I drove around 2 or 3 blocks out there this week. There was 22 piles of trash, of bundles. Wasn't none of it bundled. Some of it was this big. It took a couple of trucks to haul off. But it's not getting any better. It's getting worse. I just wish that y'all's house was in the middle of it. And I don't mind paying any more, like the lady said. I'd be glad to pay more. And I think when you try to get that down to 2 bundles, two trips around there at a time, you need to, I think they was talking in the room and you talking about where you could have the claw truck come around once instead of the twice. And it'd do us a lot better. I had a tree blow down this year, about this big around. You don't cut that thing up and bundle it like the man said. I don't know how you go about doing it. Without that claw thing, you don't do it. Anyway, I think the committee has totally gone off on a wrong tangent. They need to think this thing through and see if they can't get us back in shape where we can maybe brag about our trash pickup instead of telling everybody that it's becoming a joke, which is what it is. It's becoming a joke. So anyway, I thank you.
The first name is Ryan. Is it Bewley? I'm sorry.
My name's Ryan Bewley. I live at 202 North Royal Oak. My wife and I recently bought the house. I guess I say recent. It's been pretty recent, a couple years. Anyway, the previous owners let the yard just go. It's on 1.5 acres, and they didn't do anything to the yard for about 18 years. So let's just say I have a lot of brush. And there's no way I will be able to clean that house up and make it look nice for myself and for the rest of the neighborhood without this brush pickup. It's a corner lot. Everyone sees all the way around it. It's one of those things that just, I mean, I've had people just come over, walk by and say, hey, thanks for cleaning it up. It looks great. And, you know, that feels good. But now I can't do anything about it because of this. So, like I said, like everyone said, I'd pay more. It'd just be really helpful. Also, the recycling, you know, we're paying more right now. There's less that can be recycled. We can't recycle glass anymore. That's the heaviest thing. So y'all were talking about landfill fees, right? That's going to be going to the landfill fees now, the glasses. So that's one of the things. We can slow that down. I mean, is there a way we could slow that down, do that every, I don't know, 2 weeks, something like that? Just to keep the prices down, but just something to think about. And also the 1 time a month for the bulk pickup would be great as well too. So I'm reasonable on that. Thank y'all.
Thank you. Willie Don Johnson.
Willie Don Johnson, 243 Timothy Trail, Duncanville, Texas 75137. I left Saturday morning on my way to do COP duty for the city of Duncanville at 7 o'clock a.m. And I came home at 11 o'clock a.m. and there was brush in front of my house. Today, I didn't pay it any attention until today. I have a citation from code enforcement saying it's there. I now know what other people are talking about when they said bulk pickup. Some contractor apparently cut down some trees and put that in my yard on the front, and I didn't pay any attention because it's not directly in front of my house. It's right at the curb of my neighbor driveway in my house. And so tonight I looked at that again before I came up here to discuss that. However, we'll get it taken care of. But I would like, on a personal privilege, to invite you all to 243 Timothy Trail tomorrow, anytime during the day. My mother turns 99 years of age in the city of Duncanville. Thank you all very much.
I have a card from Carol Leach. She says that she does not wish to speak but supports changes in the contract, put it that way. Is that acceptable? Okay. And last card I have is Bob Servill.
My name is Bob Servill. Excuse my voice. I've lived at 1014 Green Valley Lane for the last 50 years. And this is the first time I've had to come up and complain at the city council, so I'm enjoying myself. Anyway, I want to cut right to the chase. I'm going to request that you strongly consider the 10 cubic yard bulk pickup. It doesn't have to be unlimited. That's not reasonable, but it needs to be something that works for everybody. I also, within the last week, I talked to Republic and contracted to pick up my brush pickup. Took me an hour and a half to find the right person at their organization that I could actually make the deal with. And then it didn't happen that day. It happened about a week later. So I'm really now looking forward to doing that ever again. So my position is, let's go with what the majority looks like. A 10 cubic yard bulk pickup would be good.
Thank you. That concludes the citizens' comments that I have. And what we're going to do now, I'm going to call Mr. Ramey back up. I'm going to call Mr. Ramey back up. Can you pull the presentation back up? And what we're going to do is continue our discussion on this particular matter. Let me say, those of you that were not able to come into the briefing room because of space and our technology didn't allow us to televise it out here, we know we've got problems. And this is why we're here tonight, is to look at the options that we have and how we can correct the problems. I personally echo the comments of our citizens in terms of how trashy our city is getting to look. Driving up and down our streets, I see many, many piles of trash that hopefully, I should have been picked up, could have been picked up, but weren't picked up. And so that's why we're here tonight. We need to fix the problems that we have and do the very, very best, because I'm becoming concerned personally about the number of piles of trash that we have. So we do understand as well, folks, that the bundling is an issue. And in terms of how do you do that? How do you do that with a 4-foot section of a bodark tree that's 18 inches across and weighs 250 pounds? I don't know how you do that. So that is something that we know we have to consider and look at as well. So in our briefing session, we did examine some of the options. What you have on the screen for us right now is what Mr. Ramey has prepared in terms of what we may consider and the options that we have available to us as a city council to do the very best we can. I'm going to go back to a town hall meeting where I made a comment in terms of the amount of time that we as the council spent deliberating on what we should do. It was a tough balancing act in terms of service versus cost. We did everything we possibly could to minimize the financial impact on our citizens while still being able to provide the service. And that balancing act failed because that's what's happened. You know, you get what you pay for, and what we paid for is not doing the job. I'm willing to sit here and be very frank and honest with you and tell you that's the problem we have for us. So in terms of what we're going to do, that's what we're going to do tonight, is consider some things, and no decisions will be made. Once you know that no decisions will be made, but we as a council are going to work through some options here and give some guidance to our staff in terms of what we can do to make some changes to the contract and understand what would be best for our city. So, Mr. Ramey, for those individuals that were not able to be present and didn't hear what we had, just briefly run through this particular chart and then go to the options that we have available to us.
Okay, sir. So the slide that is up here currently is the same slide that was presented previously. So these were the options that were presented on July 16th for council approval, reflecting the options. So again, just for the audience, the yellow is the previous contract. So this was the contract that just completed back in September, which brought into the current contract. So going across the top again, you'll see the garbage and the recycling and the brush and the different service options available for those, and the associated costs. So for example, the previous contract you'll see has the X under the twice per week for unlimited bags, X under once per week for 18-gallon bins, and then the X under the boom truck twice per month. One change again was the previous contract was unlimited.
Excuse me. Thank you. Thank you. Go ahead, Mr. Ramey.
Okay. So one change though that is not carried forward was the unlimited, but so that was the 10 yards, which is sort of the new max, twice per month. And so again, that's how these were set out. So option one, which is the orange on the screen, was the closest approximation of the original contract with the price difference shown. The green was the option that was selected by council on 16 July. And then the others were other options that were presented at that time based on council input. In terms of other levels of service, this is not fixed to the extent that if council provides other guidance to look at other combination of these options that are not up here currently, then we certainly can go back to Republic. I think the one thing that I heard sort of in discussion before we came out here, and definitely from the public, was a once per month option for bulk and brush, which would technically be option, 1.5, I guess, 1.5, which would be right in the somewhere between $15.80 and the $18.11 presented. We don't know what that number is yet. That was something that we've talked to Republic out to provide to you, but we do not have it at this time. That's something that she's still working on.
What you're saying is once per month for 10 cubic yards?
Yes, sir. Yes,
yeah.
sir.
Okay.
Something between option one and option two, or that are presented tonight. So we can go back to with your guidance, we can go back to Republic and see what that price is. Or any other options that you might want. I mean, this is sort of the choices up here, the combinations that are available for council.
Excuse me, aren't they just picking up the bulk trash?
Excuse me.
once a month? I was a little confused with what he said.
Okay. What we need to be careful of is how we operate it right now. We are in a briefing session, and it is different than city council. I want to hear everything that we possibly can in terms of input and your questions, but I still have to limit input from the audience. Okay? If you want to ask another question, which I want to hear, we need to hear it if we don't have it answered yet. But how about we continue on to the option page and see if this, I didn't hear what your question was. If it's not answered, I'll ask you to just voice it to the secretary. She can communicate it to me. And I know that's not in any book anywhere. I'm making rules as I'm flying by the seat of my pants here, but it's okay. So if you go to that options page, Mr. Ramsey.
So this is again is some feedback that staff is asking for council input on. So again, the first one was having to do with bulk and brush. Currently, again, we have 4 cubic yards bundled once per month, and for consideration is 10 cubic yards unbundled with the boom truck. The other council input that we're looking for is the not only the size of the pile, but also how often do you want to pick those up. As you saw on the previous slide, we do have a price for the twice a month option previously presented, and then we can always go back subject to your guidance and negotiate a 1 per month option for the 10 yards as well. The second discussion and feedback item for council is how long can bulk and brush be set out before collection? Currently we have them, they can set out the weekend before. In all situations, we still need all the bulk and brush on the curb by Monday. That way the contractor has all week to get that brush out of that particular zone so they can go to the next zone. I know I've had some phone calls with people on the, about the brush. My tree doesn't fall down only on the weekends, those kinds of things for consideration. But again, this is bulk and brush, so does council want to also maybe differentiate between brush and how long it can be out versus bulk? You know, how long do you want to see a mattress versus a pile of brush? The third bullet, which has several sub-bullets again, is does council want to reconsider any of the clauses, for lack of a better word, regarding recycling collection? It's currently once a week in the 18-gallon bins. There's some prices up here with just some numbers for your consideration about, for the first one, going to once or bi-weekly, which would save $1.45 that you could apply towards an increase in bulk and brush service. Eliminating curbside recycling and applying those cost savings again towards bulk and brush service. With that said, if there's some preference for that, but we still want some recycling, then the cost for the city to operate a recycling center, basically to have a place manned on Saturdays where people could bring their recycling to, the cost of us operating a recycling center on that, at that level would be $1.70 a month, but then it would be centrally located. One thing I think probably to address some of the comments as well as glass is the city is aware of some contractors that to deal directly in the glass market, and we are working and looking at those options. So not necessarily glass being part of the curbside service, but definitely, we are looking into providing a central location where people can bring their glass for disposal. We're still trying to negotiate terms and so that we can have something to bring to the city manager or councils for approval, depending on what's involved in that service.
Okay, Mr. Anderson.
Can you go back to the other slide? One back.
The price slide, sir?
Yeah. So I heard you right, I think, a minute ago, but I just wanted to restate it. But the price of $18.11 for 2 times a month, if we go to 1 times a month, we're not going to half that savings. That's not going to happen, right?
Well, I would tell you personally, I don't know what the number is. I would assume that, I mean, it's definitely going to be somewhere between the 2 numbers, but I don't have a number from Republic.
So but if they're picking up double the trash at one time, they're still picking up the same amount of bulk, so I can see where that wouldn't, I can see why that wouldn't be half of the cost if you did it once a month instead of twice a month. Because you're just doing double the work once a month.
Yeah, the cost for...
Is that...
Well, I concur that it's going to be somewhere between. I really can't comment on the amount, sir.
But the point is, if you've got a bunch of limbs in your yard and it's out there, and whether they come once a month or twice a month, they're still picking up the same amount. So if they come once a month, they're likely to be picking up more than if they come twice a month, right? I mean, they're likely. I'm not trying to get you to commit to a price. It's just, I just want to try.
I don't know. I don't know how often people clean up their brush and put it out on the curb. So there may be instances where people technically could put out 10 yards on 1 time a month and then follow it up later that month with another 10 yards as well. I don't know if you're saying, I mean, maybe, you know, it might be 5 yards and then 5 yards if we did it twice per month versus 10 yards all at once. I just don't know.
So I don't have I don't have a problem if we want to increase to this, if that's what the people are saying here. I also think, you know, in my case, you know, I take responsibility for if I have a major, you know, event, I take responsibility and clean it up. Just that for the record, I just want to say that. But I don't have a problem with going to this amount if that's what the people want to do and that's what we decide to do here. My other point, I would like to suggest something that based on this trash being this, and recycling and glass and other places being this, you know, hot of an issue, it looks like. I mean, here, I would like to see if there might be that we might form a citizens committee. I would be glad to be involved in it, that would come together like we do with art and other things, and, you know, and talk about what we can be to be a progressive 21st century city into the recycling, and how do we get best practices. You know, maybe there's things from the outside that citizens and you working, collaborating with you, that we might be able to find something better. Maybe we come together 2 or 3 or 4 times a year and maybe work on something like that.
I can tell you that when we were in the middle of the negotiation part, so it wasn't this year's National Night Out, but the previous National Night Out, members of the Keep Duncanville Beautiful Committee had come to me and talked about some of the things that they were interested in terms of this.
We Keep Duncanville Beautiful. Maybe that's the route to do it.
So anyway, that was something that they had brought up previously. So maybe there's, you know, again, there's something for that.
Well, that could be brought up to the council liaison to talk to the KDB folks about, see if they wanted to work that kind of an issue. Going back to one thing Mr. Anderson said in terms of twice a month, I'm not so sure that it applies only to a single individual. It applies to how many times this cloud truck would come through our city. Not simply that I, as a citizen, are going to cut 10 cubic yards today, and 2 weeks from now I'm going to cut another 10 cubic yards. Looking at what we have existing in our city today, if that cloud truck came through our city twice a month, I think that what it does, it because many people in our city use contractors to do their limbs cleanup in spring and fall, and that's going on right now. So that truck coming through our city twice a month would have an opportunity to catch more and more of the contractor work versus just a citizen doing, well, I'm going to do 10 cubic yards on this Tuesday, and then 2 weeks from today I'll do another. So that's the way I'm perceiving the twice a month is a better opportunity for us in terms of keeping the city cleaned up. Ms. Jameson.
Well, we live on Lady Lane in District 5, tons of trees. And trees don't make appointments when they fall, or limbs. We had a huge limb that fell and found out that we had bees. And there was a huge bee nest. And it took the fence down. It took a playground equipment. So it just happens. And so it's not just like, I guess the thing that baffles me, and the people that have called me, older people who, particularly widows and widowers, that cannot do it by themselves, and they're not hiring contractors. Sometimes a guy will come through the neighborhood and offer to do it, sometimes for free and sometimes for less money than getting a tree contractor. But they can't afford these amounts. So, and we have been, the thing that you know, those of you who have lived here for any length of time, that we are a tree city. We were designated a tree city. We've pushed for trees. We pushed. If you took one down, we required you put it back. So, you know, to suddenly act like, what a surprise, we're a tree city. That should have been, in my opinion, I'm sorry, I was not there when the contract was voted on. My daughter went to medical school, and I went to her white coat ceremony the night the contract was voted on. But brush is number one, in my opinion, because, I mean, besides trash, but because we are a tree city, and we have tons of brush, and it just is there. It's kind of like cutting your hair. Trees grow, limbs fall. So we have to relook at this. We've got to do something about brush, and to me, that's the biggest issue. I have noticed, though, along with other people, that the regular trash has been lackadaisical. It's almost like when they stopped picking up the brush, oh, they were leaving a little trash, too. And I've seen it. And I don't know what the problem is. And it's not ours. I think that there needs to be some discussion between their company that to be real clear on what their job is. Because I know through talking to our representative that they have contests for their employees on the job they do, and that's how they get promoted. So when your trash guy comes out and does a good job, that's points in his favor. So, you know, why are we seeing all these little bitty pieces of trash? And I don't mean little bitty, they'll be like a box or a can. And I'm seeing it in my district. So it's not just the brush, it's almost like hit and miss now, and I don't get it. But I think that's a discussion we need to have with Republic as a council. And I really am not for putting this off on another committee. We are responsible. We are the ones you elected. We are the ones that decide on the contract. And I think we need your input, and then we get a contract that fits what the city needs, and it needs to be closer to what we had, because apparently it was meeting the needs. And for those of you who weren't in briefing, the contract we had for 20 years with Duncan, everybody that's lived here remembers Duncan, and it was a wonderful contract. No one makes 20-year contracts anymore because prices go up and they're stuck. So when Republic bought Duncan, they honored the contract. And when the contract came up, it was due, it was over. And we even asked them, you want to do another 20-year contract? And they said, no, they wouldn't do that again. So it is what it is, but we've got to negotiate the best contract that fits our citizens. I do not want to hand that off to someone else. I want us to do it, and I want us to get input from, and I know I've received input from my district, telephone calls and emails, and so I get it, and I see it, and I know it. And one thing we did talk about also is that we have a lot of contractors that live in Duncanville, and if you have a contractor who lives close by and you see that maybe they're putting out more limbs and brush than is around their home, and I have found 2 huge instances in my district, then you need to report it, because we're paying to pick up something from their business. It was pointed out that we don't have anything to deal with that. Well, we need to pass, as a council, an ordinance about that, because that you cannot put out as part of your brush your work product any more than you could bring, like if you worked with oil and gas, something and set it out there. It's the same thing. You can't do this. You cannot set out brush that's not from your yard, because we don't want to pay for it. And if we all get on board and start being vigilant and watching out and seeing and noticing if somebody is putting out a whole lot of brush that is not theirs, that affects you. So we'll just work together as a team and get this done right. Thank you.
Okay, as I've been making notes, and I've made what I think are 3 items that we as a council would ask staff to take another look at. What I'll do is I'll go down these 3. If I've got them right, if I've got them wrong, let me know with some head nod or something. First thing is the cost to eliminate the bundling requirement, and what would be the associated cost with that. Number 2 is that 10 cubic yards once a month that you, Mr. Ram, you said that's an option, it's a possibility. We don't know the price of what that would be, if you could work with Republic to find that out. And number 3 is the possibility of a separate contract for glass, which personally I'm glad to hear that you're working on that, because yeah, it is putting that in our trash and increasing the weight of what's going into the landfill does concern me, and knowing that the possible ramifications of that monetarily on each citizens could be effective. So those are the 3 things that I wrote down as what I'm hearing that we would like our staff to take a look at. Do y'all have any additions or changes?
May I ask some
to that?
clarification before we move
Sure,
to another
absolutely.
council? So I understand the 10 cubic yards, obviously unbundled with the claw truck. Your first one, I did not understand the cost for just. You're saying a 4 yards, no bundling as an option?
No. I'm just eliminate the bundling piece of in the contract.
So then it would just be to go to like 10 yards.
10 yards unbundled, 2 yards unbundled, 1 yard unbundled.
Well, if I get in, the reason for the 4 cubic yard cut into 4-foot lengths and bundled was because they eliminated the boom truck, the claw truck, and reduced that cost, and so they were picking up manually. Recognizing that a lot of the issues is with the bundling, what we would be doing then is bringing the boom truck, the claw truck back. At that point, whether it's 4 cubic yards, 10 cubic yards, it's just a matter of the amount. So I think, but I guess what you're asking then is using the claw truck, but we need to know then what is the maximum amount that you want to allow, 4 cubic yards or 10 cubic yards?
I don't have an answer to that, but I guess I'm coming from a personal problem. I put out a bundle of vines that I had cleaned out. It was less than 4 feet long. I could put my arms around it. I put twine around it, and I had 2 of those bundles. And I put it out with my trash. Times in past, that would be picked up. It wasn't.
Yeah, that would be.
Right. So we've had the conversations with Republic about that, and what they're trying to do is differentiate between whether it's too big to be picked up as part of regular trash versus part of the bulk pickup. And what they've said is if you can put it in a bag, they will pick it up. So I don't know then, we would have that conversation with them if they go back to the way it used to be where they pick up a small bundle if it was tied with the regular trash, and then you have the regular boom truck pickup. If that's, you want us to ask about,
Yeah.
we will, okay.
However you couch
Okay.
that, whatever language you put to that, that
So,
would be appreciated.
The other thing, like somebody said, I've experienced it being put in a box. There was a box there with trash,
Mhm.
small box, and they won't pick the box up.
Right, because,
So it's-
again, yeah, and that's, we've,
But they also have a deal with, they won't pick up sacks if they told someone in my district they had to go and get a tag
no.
that it was brush and buy it from them and put it on the sack.
That was, under the old contract, you had to have a tag for grass bags, but under this contract, that is no longer the case. If it's bagged, however many bags are out there, they'll pick it up as part of the normal pickup.
So if you put 10 bags of tree limbs, they'll pick it up.
They will pick it up. That is what they're telling us.
And does
If
it have
but
to be
they're
in a
bag.
paper? Does it have to be in a paper
No,
bag?
no, garbage bag. Now,
Garbage bag will do.
one thing that, speaking about bags, that I do want to mention as well about recycling, because we've taken some calls on that, they will not pick up recycling that's in a plastic bag because that contaminates the recycling load. However, if it's a clear plastic bag where they can see what's in it, they will take it. They don't really like to do that, but if it's a dark plastic bag, they will not take it. So for people who have like paper shredding and stuff, the best thing is to put it in a paper sack and put it in your recycling bin.
Okay.
But, so, I guess just to kind of wrap up your suggestions, Mayor, your direction, and obviously we need the council's input. We can go back with, and we've already had the discussion with the Republic about the 10 cubic yard, whether once a month or twice a month. The twice a month, we have the cost. The once a month, we don't know what it would be. They indicated, no, it's probably not going to be half the amount, but it's going to be somewhere in between. They don't know the number, but we can come back with that. Obviously, I think you and we would like to get this resolved, the sooner the better. We cannot come back the next meeting with a contract, but I think we can come back with some pricing. But more than likely, we would not be able to come back with a revision to the contract until the second meeting in December. But I think by the next meeting, we can at least get a better idea on the pricing, if that's the option you want to look at. My suggestion is try to limit the changes so that we can get this done quicker. And then also, as part of this, just a suggestion, we really need to settle on the contract so that we can do the education piece. And so the caution is, if we're coming back again in a few months because we've changed something else now, we are going to have a hard time educating the public on what we need to do. From all the calls that we've had, from most of the comments I think tonight, it sounds like most of it revolves around the brush pickup. The recycling, we understand that. The glass, as we said, we're working with another contractor to try to handle that, where they will provide a dumpster and they'll take it from us. One of the things that we're trying to work through, though, is what happens if it gets contaminated. So we have to make sure that we can control that so it doesn't, so that we don't incur that cost. But the glass market is not out there. And so those cities that are still picking up recycling, or glass as part of recycling, is because it's still in their contracts. But for those cities nationwide that are changing contracts, or they are doing away with the glass. So we just happen to hit our contract at the time when the recycling market tanked.
So am I hearing that we will come back with 3 options at this point? One being exactly what we see now from previous, 1 as is. 2 perhaps being an option where we've changed from once a month versus twice a month, so that would be the pricing option. The other would be changing that option to be bi-weekly, and just looking at those 3, having 3 options to come back. We can eliminate 3, 4, and 5 and just take it off our charts and just give us 3 to look at to make the decision. But based upon what I keep hearing is that number 1 is exactly, or as close as what we're going to get to what we had before. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
So if that's the case, I mean, I'm not sure why we continue to go back and forth if we're hearing the same thing, that if one is so close to the previous, why go even further than this? And then I would also, to Ms. Jameson's point, Councilman Jameson's report, comment of increasing fees for, and that's a later comment, for outside dumping inside our city as well. Making that fee a very healthy fee that no one would want to drop buck or anything in our city again.
Ask a clarification. May I ask a clarification, Councilmember Cooks? Can you the three options that you're talking about are option one that's shown on there?
Yeah, keep option one.
Option 1A being 10 cubic yards, but once a month.
That'll be option 2.
Okay.
I'm just trying to spread it out.
Okay.
So option 1.
And then what was the third one?
I was making it up as I go. I was just listening to what citizens are saying and giving us 3 options to work with. I don't know what the third one would be. That was close.
Well, we need to know what the parameters of option, whether that third option you want to look at is.
I think that's something if somebody else wanted to have any, the input of what a third one could look like.
The only option on the third one is the recycling going from once a week into bi-weekly.
Right, okay.
That would be.
Which is separate from the brush.
Bi-monthly.
Bi-monthly.
So option 3 currently shown is the one where we adjust the recycling interval.
With option 3, we know what that delta is between, again, so if you go to bi-weekly, semi-monthly recycling, that difference is going to be the difference between option 2, our current level, and option 3. That's how much you will save on the recycling. So that's $1.45.
So again, the only big difference, even when we look at another option 2 and 3, we're bringing it just for clarification for us. But we keep hearing over and over again that and I know financial cost-wise, we want to see what the cost is, but if everyone just keeps saying that option 1, regardless of the price, they want the same thing that they had before, then why do we keep looking any further than 2 or 3? I'm throwing 2 or 3 out, but 1 is really what everybody's saying, let's go with, so why go back and forth?
Can I?
Yeah, Mr. Anderson.
Okay, I'm with Councilman Cooks on this. I mean, is there any way that we can, this is not up for an action tonight, right? You're saying it's not. I mean, the quicker the better, it sounds like. And it sounds like number 1, we're talking about very little money per household, and it's not going to double down to go once a month, I doubt. And what people are wanting is this option number 1, and I don't know why we don't just say, staff, let's make this happen. I mean, if we can, and be done with it. That's what the people are wanting. That's, it seems to make more sense than picking up the small items. Why because other times it's got to be an ongoing, and that's what everybody wants. I don't know how the rest of the council feels, but
I tend to agree with what you're saying, Mr. Anderson. The only wrinkle to that would be going on recycling, going from once a week to bi-weekly.
I would say keep it the same.
Keep everything.
I want to keep it the same.
Keep everything exactly the same.
I want to go. What I would propose, if I was a voting person tonight, I would propose that we do number 1 the way it is, the way it's lined out right here.
Okay.
And then with the added part of what the city manager just talked about, with the glass piece could be added at some point.
Yeah, and I wanted to clarify, I would never want to put the hands of the trash in any group out there. What I was clarifying a minute ago was like, it'd be great to have a citizens group starting to work on progressive, recycling stuff that we're not thinking about. People would think about stuff. I would never put the hands of this out of the council into a committee.
Okay.
But that's what I would like to do, and I wonder if it's appropriate to even have a poll. From
let's hold that for just a minute. Okay, Mr. Harvey.
Thank you, Mayor. Just real briefly, I definitely support option 1 and would encourage staff to come back with a solution or options as it relates to glass recycling. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. McBurnett.
Mine would almost echo what Mr. Harvey said. I've been supportive of option 1 since the beginning. I would continue to go with option 1. I don't mind looking at 1A with the recycle to 1, but also let's look at the glass option and see how that works as well.
Okay. Mr. Veracruz?
Yes, sir. Everything I've heard from folks in my district, they want option 1.
Before we will go any further, I did receive another customer comment, citizen comment card. I do want that individual to be able to express how he feels. Mr. Douglas Gray. And need your name and address for the record, please.
Douglas Gray, and I live at 277 Marybrook Trail. And our particular neighborhood has a lot of trees. So I understand, I guess when we talk about bulk trash, you know, I tend to think of people cleaning out closets and taking things out to the street that perhaps they want to get rid of, maybe an old mattress or something, and that comes under that kind of description, or is a description of bulk trash. But what I'm seeing in perhaps is referred to as bulk trash is a lot of people putting out a lot of tree branches and that stacking it up to 5-6 feet tall. And I mean, I understand that they have, a problem getting rid of, they've cut a tree down or they're cutting branches and things like that. I had a tree out in front of my home when I moved in there that was very close to the power lines. I had it cut down. I've paid the guy to take all that wood away, and there was nothing put out for the city to take care of. But I think a lot of people are depending on the city they're doing the cutting, they're cutting all this stuff down, and they want people to, the Republic to take care of it. And what I'd like to propose is just some ideas, throw them out there in terms of saving costs. I lived in a large city. They had trucks that came around with a chipper, and they would take the branches, particularly in the fall and certain times of the year, they would come around and they would grind all that stuff into chips, and that makes great recycling material. I don't know what's going on presently with these branches, whether they're just getting thrown in a truck and dumped off somewhere. The other suggestion, if I can make it in, is also, I don't see really the point of having 2 pickups for garbage every week. I think 1 would be sufficient, but that's just a point to argue, I suppose, or discuss. So, thank you very much.
Thank you. Well, what happened to Mr. Cooks?
I don't know, but I want to say something to that, because I've said something to the city manager too. We did used to have a truck that came around before he was here, and they did pick up our tree limbs, and we still have the truck. He says it's being used to pick up limbs in the park. But I think that is something we ought to look at too, because they did come around, they did pick up branches and different brush. In fact, we offered in front of our house to be a chip point, and they would chip it, and then we invited all of our neighbors to come and get whatever they wanted. We have a 6-foot pile of chips, but that is recycling. That is recycling, instead of having them pick up the brush and take it. And I wouldn't mind doing that, having a way that we could put it back in the earth, because in my district, with the hills and the creeks, we have a real problem with erosion. And so you recycle it and put it right back, and we've killed 2 birds with 1 stone. So I think there's other things that we could in fact look at.
Okay. Mr. McBurnett?
Regarding the previous contract, that was, it's illegal to have it ends up being private gain if the city does it. That was done by, it was part of the contract, and it was done by the company itself that the city contracted with. So I just wanted to make sure that was clear.
Okay, get us back on target here. What I would like to do, council, from what I'm hearing, I don't believe there's any further deliberation necessary on this. That if we want to do what's most expedient, most efficient, and to do the very best for our citizens in this city, is to go ahead and move on this thing and take it back to option number 1 at the stated prices. Now, before I open anything here, Mr. Ramey, if a motion is made tonight to go, just a minute. If a motion is made tonight, because of what I'm hearing, to go with option number 1, be done with any further deliberations, going back to where we were before, is there any possibility that doing that Republic would change these prices?
Well,
And I know that's
can only
speculation
comment
on- speculation
I
on
can
your
only
part.
comment on the price part. I can't comment on motions and things like that. The bottom line is these are the prices that Republic gave us at the first time back on 16 July, and they have told us that these prices here remain unchanged.
I'd like to know 1A, what the price would be if it was 1, except that instead of once a week recycling, we did it every other week.
1A being 10 cubic yards once a month.
Once a month.
Correct? Okay, Mr. Cooks?
Last comment, I think for me, whether we go with 1 or 1A, I think we also need to consider one mass sweep of the city to make sure that all of the brush, the bulk of brush out there is picked up to start fresh. So does that mean that's as expense? Yes. But in order to start fresh, we need to just go ahead and sweep the whole city, everything that's on the city, forget a zone, whatever else. Authorize the Republic to say a portion of this is to go sweep the entire city and take away all the things that's out there and start fresh.
Okay, I'm sure staff has made a note of that suggestion, and they'll look at it and come back to us with a price. So what I'm hearing is there's 2 things that we'd like staff to take a look at. Option 1A would be 10 cubic yards once a month, and if there is any associated increase or decrease in the cost of taking out the requirement to bundle, to discuss that with Republic.
Option 1 or option 1A would be unbundled.
Okay, already, it would be.
It would be,
associated- okay,
because
it's
it would be
already there
picked
then.
up with the boom truck. That's correct. It
Okay.
is- That was the point of the bundling, was because it wasn't being picked up with the boom truck. So
Understood then,
if you go
okay.
1 or 1A, it's unbundled.
So the only task from council to staff would be option, come back with something with on 1A.
So then at the next meeting, then we can either 1 or 1A vote on
That
that
is
and
correct.
make it happen. So it doesn't have to wait 2 more meetings.
We will not be ready to bring a contract for approval by the next meeting, but we can come back with the pricing. I think we can come back with the pricing for 1A, so that at least you can be sure that
make a
that's what
motion
you
at
want.
that time.
But make the motion if you want to. You can't, yeah, but we will not actually have the contract for approval until the second meeting of December, and that's because they have to rework. If they have to look at 1A, if that's the one, what you end up wanting, I mean, then they have to first work up that pricing, but then secondly, changing the contract, it's got to go through their corporate offices and their legal, as well as our reviews and so forth on those amendments. So that's why we don't think we can get it in the next 2 weeks, but I think we can come back with the pricing for 1A.
So the only way to get it done the next 2 weeks is to get a consensus tonight of the way we would.
We would not be
We don't
ready,
know the
even if you
No,
told us
no.
tonight what, for sure, which one you wanted, we could not bring back the contract. However, we have had discussions with Republic. If there was a direction that we felt certain of, even without the contract, we would look at how can we get the boom truck in sooner than later. And so we are having that discussion. As Councilmember Cook's, what his suggestion was, we have had that discussion. Depending on what we can find out and hearing what y'all have said today, we will work towards that, recognizing that. The other thing that we would be doing with the contract is bringing back the fee schedule change as well to affect that fee change for our customers. So we would bring both of those back at the same time. And then then customers would see that fee change on their January bills for December services, basically.
Okay.
Then it sounds like to me that we could, if we are deciding between 1 and 1A, and it was on the agenda, because they're going to come back with a contract, and it's not going to start till January.
No, the contract would start immediately. Then once you approve it, it would start immediately.
But I thought you said they couldn't come back till, we couldn't reflect it.
Second meeting in December.
I hear what you're saying. What I'm saying is that if we have a choice between two, and it's on the agenda, and we vote on it on the next meeting, then the rest of it is in-house paperwork for them, and it becomes effective whenever their in-house paperwork goes. Because we've already decided on what we want. Once they bring us how much it costs, that's all we need. It's their problem to write up the contract and go through their corporate.
We could start the service, I guess, if that's your question. You will still have to approve the contract. So it
Well,
will have
that's
to
what I'm
come back the
saying, but
second
I
time
think that,
anyway.
yeah,
then.
that we can
Okay.
decide at the next meeting
We'll-
as soon as we
will
get the
work-
cost.
We will do everything, yes, okay.
Because
I
all
think I
we
see
need
what
is the
you're-
cost.
So meantime, let me rehash what I just said before. Regardless of what direction we go in, we're still looking at a 2-week, 3-week, 4-week window. We must really address the problem that's out there right now by authorizing Republic to go back and to do a clean sweep of our entire city and start fresh. We cannot wait until the contract negotiation of 1A and 1B has been approved. We must come back with this on the agenda to say, send a truck out here tomorrow and clean our city up right now, and then start fresh with the portion that we need to get cleaned up.
Accepted, but there's a good possibility of what that cost is going to be is in excess of $50,000, which is going to be above his contracting authority, which brings it back to council.
But if you don't, what happens then is it's going to still be sitting out there another week or two.
But do you not want to know the cost?
Well, I do. I'm saying bring us back the cost. Let's go clean the city back up immediately.
First of all, it also depends on what their resources are. They can't necessarily put a brush truck on the street tomorrow. They have to get their resources together, schedule their resources. But they have indicated that they can do that in a reasonable amount of time. That is not dependent on the contract. That is just us giving them the go-ahead to do. So we have had that discussion, and we will work with them, but I can't promise you that it will be on the street tomorrow or next week. But we will try to get that out as soon as possible. From what I'm hearing tonight, the council's direction, it sounds like you want to go to the 10 cubic yards with the boom truck. The only question is whether it's once or twice a month.
Correct.
On recycling.
Recycling doesn't change.
Okay, well, that's what I thought 1 and 1A was. That one was as it is, and 1A was if, rather than every week recycling, we went to every other week recycling. Well, then I'm not.
Then that makes one, that makes 1C. That makes brush once a month and recycling twice a month.
No, I think her 1A was what she was.
It was, yes, it was. It was recycling.
She never changed it 2 months, twice a month. It was the recycling.
What I was hearing from over here is that we leave recycling as is and just amend it to look at once a month.
Okay, well, then we can just forget about it, because
That's what I got
brush
over
has
here
got to
is
be picked up.
Don't mess with recycling, leave it at once a week. And the only thing we were changing is to make it boom truck 10 cubic yards once a month. Now, if you want to change it to bi-weekly, then that makes it 1C.
No, just,
we
I'll
already know
go
what
with
that's gonna
one,
be.
just
It's gonna
one
be
the way it
about
is,
45
because
less.
the brush, we have a problem. We're a tree city. We have a lot of brush all the time.
We've got to get back on, look, it's, if recycling goes to bi-weekly, it's $1.45 less. We already know that.
It's what?
$1.45 less.
Okay. Well,
It's
if that's all there
It's already
is,
been charted out for us. If we go with bi-weekly recycling, it's $1.45 less. So take 1811 minus $1.45, you've got what we have today, except we've gone to recycling bi-weekly. What we don't know is this, what we've asked staff to look at, is this 1A, and that is recycling once a week with boom truck, 10 cubic yards once a month.
well, I'm not interested in that
Mayor.
from my district. I want,
I'm just like to restate again, maybe we should just restate. I'm in favor of doing number one, period.
As is.
As it is right now, recycling.
That's what I heard.
That, and then the
Okay, then
twice,
me
the
too.
twice a month.
Same here.
same here.
And-
I'm not going for, we have too much brush.
And Mayor, I'll agree. Let's just go one and go.
That's all of us 21.
No changes to number one. Is that what I'm hearing?
I think it's awfully expensive on the recycling for the things they won't take, but
I'm going to say it one more time.
Hurry
I'm going to
before you
say,
change your mind.
I'm going to say it one more time. What I'm hearing is that this council tonight wants no more deliberation, but we want to direct staff to go back to Republic and change the contract to option number one as we see it here, and I'll read it so it goes into the record as is, reading off the chart. Bags, unlimited, twice a week. That's garbage. Recycling, in a bin, once a week. And boom truck, unlimited, or not unlimited, but 10 cubic yards, twice a month. And the cost will be $18.11. If that's what this council wants, and there's no further discussion, then we can close this thing. The chair will entertain a motion to approve option number one.
You can't vote. You cannot
Oh, we're
vote.
still in a briefing session.
So what
have to
your
close the
instruction
briefing
is,
session.
based on what I'm hearing from you and the council, is we'll bring back the appropriate
contract.
proposed amendment for option for you to vote on next time.
Next time.
Well, it would probably be the December 17th meeting, but in the meantime, we will work with Republic to effect the change in service as soon as we can.
For the record, you know what we want. Republic will do what we're asking to do.
There is
The
just the
paperwork
cost.
is going to follow as quickly as possible.
And
We're
for the
good?
record, they need to start picking up everything that is like little pieces instead of leaving garbage sitting there.
Okay. All right, so, yeah, we are still in the briefing session. So I'm going to close the briefing session at 9 o'clock, straight up. This now takes us to item number 5, which is items for individual consideration. If there are no objections to that, we will continue on without a break. Okay, we are reconvening the City Council, November 19th, 2019, at 9:01 p.m. And item 5A, items for individual consideration. Consider resolution casting the City Council of the City of Duncanville's vote for the 4th member of the Board of Directors of Dallas Central Appraisal District, parens DCAD. Mr. Summerlin.
Okay, on September the 3rd, council voted to nominate Michael Hurt for the Dallas Central Appraisal District Board of Directors. He currently is serving on the Board of Directors, but his term is up, so he needs to be reelected. And staff recommends approval of the resolution casting the Duncanville City Council's vote for Michael Hurt for the 4th member of the Board of Directors.
Move for approval.
Dallas
Second.
Central Appraisal.
We have a motion to approve, and we have a second. The motion is to approve Mr. Michael Hurt for the DCAD Board of Directors. Please vote. Thank you. Item 5B, consider resolution adopting landscape icon concept A-1 for the Wintergreen Road and Cockrell Hill roadway gateways, and the landscaping plan is presented for the U.S. Highway 67 corridor. Mr. Ramey.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Tonight we'll be talking about the U.S. Highway 67 corridor. This is a follow-up to our briefing session from our previous council meeting. Again, what we're bringing you tonight is for your approval is the option that was presented to council at the last briefing session. With me tonight from Pacheco and Koch is Nick Nelson and Dorothy Whitmire, and she'll be coming up to give you the presentation again with talking about the landscape plan as well as the landscape icon. So I will turn it over to her.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I want to say a big thank you to you and your city staff for having us here tonight. What you're seeing on the screen is the result of direction received over a multi-year design process for the US 67 as it interacts with your city. During that time, we received great feedback from city staff, council, the Keep Duncanville Beautiful board, and ultimately the design was refined to what you see now. To revisit the materials of this option and the makeup of the design, you have a very timeless and classic stone veneer on 2 of the 3 major structural pieces. The stone veneer pieces are a tan cut stone that have cast stone caps and banding to give it some additional texture. This is contrasted by smooth concrete portion that is consistent with the overall materials and design of the US 67 corridor that is being updated and is currently under construction. Your major identifying pieces on the icon are the metal powder-coated city logo that was adopted earlier this year, as well as the large, distinct Duncanville lettering that reads across the bottom wall. The logo is powder-coated metal that will be pin-mounted onto the concrete portion of the sign and illuminated at night. On the lower piece, you have Duncanville spelled out across the bottom, which you can see in the image on the left, is proposed to be white acrylic letters with lighting inside that will read really well at night. Now, Mayor, Council, being conscious of your time, and as you've already been briefed on the project and it's included in the packet, please let me know how much history of the project you'd like for me to go over. Otherwise, I can stick to just the icon portion, its locations for your approval.
Move forward, please.
Okay. So real quickly, it was determined for 2 icons to be located at the city gateways. Landscape icon location 1 is Cockrell Hill and US 67. This was also the area that received the $1 million Green Ribbon Grant for planting and irrigation improvements that will complement the icon. And the second location is at Wintergreen and US 67. This also received a grant for planting and irrigation to complement the icon location. And so now that you've heard me say it, we brought some updated images as well to show you what that option looks like. So here you see the monument at the northern gateway. That's Cockrell Hill going over in the background. And you can also see in this image the planting that will be installed with the TxDOT Green Ribbon Grant. This is an overall plan view, just trying to give you a little bit better idea of the location. So the icon's located in pink, and you can see on either side of the corridor is that planting again that was awarded by TxDOT. Here is the updated monument icon location at Wintergreen Road. In this image, you're also seeing the green ribbon planting and irrigation that will be funded through the award that was received. And again, in plan view, one thing to note here is that this green ribbon award for the planting was received in conjunction with the city of Cedar Hill. This did a couple of things strategically. It helped us go after the grant. It also provided more money to go for the planting and irrigation, and then helps with the overall scale of the project. And then if you would like just some additional context on the plantings that will be available through the Green Ribbon funding, but that is the presentation.
So again, tonight, Mayor and Council, staff is recommending approval of concept A1 as presented, subject to your questions.
Is there any discussion?
Motion
Ms.
approved.
Jameson.
Since it's a continuation in Cedar Hills at the other end, we want the brightest colors. We want to pop. We want to look different. You're not doing theirs, are you?
This, it actually is a partnership across the whole corridor.
Okay,
so
well,
that
can we
have
differentiate so it doesn't look like a continuous? We want to be Duncanville.
Yes, the icon will definitely highlight that you're entering Duncanville in the city.
So I see here we had some like really bright flowers.
Mr. Ramey, would you please smile at Ms. Jameson? Thank you very much.
He didn't just smile at me.
Thank you very much.
We want some bright flowers, some bright, because you have hot pink and all this stuff, because it really, I think, makes people look at it and think how lovely. So since we're always in competition, you may not know this, I don't know where you live, but we are with Cedar Hill. So we would like to stand out.
Nice to make a motion to approve.
We have a motion to approve, and we have a second. Please vote. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, item 5C is action as a result of executive session, which we have not done yet. We're going to take that later. So we're going to take staff and board reports. Item 6A, receive the library quarterly report. Mr. Velasquez.
Mr. Mayor, Council, good evening. And I'd like to present the quarterly report to you. This quarter for our work plan items that we accomplished were our objective 2.20, which is to coordinate and host an expanded series of adult literacy classes. So we have expanded through volunteer help our ESL classes to 4 weekly sessions. We're also preparing to add GED classes in English and Spanish. And we've also expanded our adult technology classes through volunteer efforts. So that's been very helpful for us. This quarter, our biggest department accomplishment was our Boo Bash, our annual Halloween celebration. So this is the first year we've done it at the Field House. We increased from last year's 1,300 attendance to 1,450 as a result of being at a larger venue. We had 17 staff and 54 volunteers that assisted us in that, putting on that event. We had 25 games, 4 inflatable stations, 17 community partners that assisted us with that event. And I'd like to very much thank the staff of the library, the rec center, and the field house for all their assistance in that. And these are just some of our images from that event of a lot of happy people. Some other department accomplishments. We've added a bi-monthly adult craft and maker program. That's gone very well for us. We also had a very successful another semester of our baby sign language story time, which always goes very well. And again, we had another wonderful story time with the mayor in September. As you can see here, it's always a very fun event, and everybody really enjoys that. So thank you again, Mr. Mayor, for your participation.
Maybe don't look that happy.
What?
Maybe don't look that happy.
For this quarter, some of our measures this quarter, we had over 40,000 visitors, circulated over 31,000 items. As you can see, we keep doing our ILLs, and we've added 380 new borrowers in various programs. We offered 79 programs with nearly 2,500 attendants in those programs. Computer usage is always very high. And again, we really rely on our volunteers for a lot of help, so they offered us 852 hours of volunteer help time during that quarter. So if there's no questions, that's all I have.
Any questions for Mr. Velasquez?
Just a great job as always. We really appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
We have a great library. We do appreciate it.
I have a great staff. I rely on them, and they do a wonderful job. So
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, with that, we're going to recess our city council meeting at 9:11, and city council will move to the briefing chambers for executive sessions. Time set. Call back to session.
Executive session is called at 9:16 p.m. in accordance with the Open Meetings Act as posted on the council agenda. Thank you.
Okay, and we are reconvening city council at 9:42 p.m. And we are going to item
5C.
Item 5C. Take any necessary action as a result of executive session, and there is a motion.
Oh, we got to vote for that.
Yes, Mayor and Council, as a result of your executive session, I would ask the Council to consider a motion to authorize the city manager to enter into a purchase-sale agreement and to close the same for the purchase of approximately 1.78 acres of real property in the amount of $200,000 for the construction of a municipal fire station or other public purposes on property generally located west of State Highway 67, south of I-20, east of Cedar Ridge, Santa Fe Road, and north of Daniel Dale Road.
And that is the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and we have a second.
No, I can't make a motion. I can just read it.
I make a motion.
I second it.
So moved.
So moved.
So moved. Do we have a second?
Second by Councilmember James.
By Councilmember Jameson. Okay. Since we don't have electronic, I will take a show of hands. All in favor, please raise your right hand. Seeing none opposed, motion is passed. And we are adjourned at 9:42.